the Wandmaker of Hogwarts. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101. Buried alive. It is impossible. Liu Sen didn't have time to explain. He took out the flying armor from his backpack, put it on, and was ready to take off. Ginny, who was confused, saw that Liu Sen looked nervous and grabbed his arm. It's Ron and the others' voices. What's going on? I don't know. Let me go first. I'll go take a look. No. Take me with you. Time was running out. Liu Sen picked up Ginny in a princess hug and then controlled the flying armor to fly into the sky. Ginny felt a little embarrassed in Liu Sen's arms, but after flying high into the sky, she stopped moving and hugged his neck obediently. As they approached the burrow, Ginny gasped, "Ah, what's going on? What happened to my family?" Liu Sen was also surprised. Because the burrow was tilted, the entire burrow is now tilted like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and half of the first floor is sunk into the ground. After Liu Sen landed, he quickly put Ginny down and ran straight to the warehouse. Percy stood in the yard in panic in his pajamas. When he saw Liu Sen and the others coming back, he asked in confusion, "What happened?" "I was reading in the house, and suddenly the house tilted." Ginny ignored the other party and followed Liu Sen anxiously. Her intuition told her that this matter was definitely related to her twin brother. Liu Sen rushed into the warehouse and lifted up an upside down wheelbarrow, revealing a downward slanting passage inside. "You wait for me up there." After saying that, Liu Sen waved his wand and threw out a floating lighting ballpoint. After running down the winding stairs for more than 10 meters, a huge space appeared at the end point. Several more lighting balls were released, and the situation in the basement appeared before their eyes. Liu Sen frowned immediately. This place was about the size of a basketball court, but its design was not drawn like this. After taking a closer look, Liu Sen became even more annoyed because he had repeatedly stressed that the number, position, and thickness of the columns must be strictly in accordance with the drawings. But after a few glances, he found that there were only a few pillars here. Ginny's exclamation came from behind Liu Sen. When was this place dug? It's so big. Where are Fred and the others?" Percy followed and said angrily, "It must be the twins' doing. The house has been dug down. When mom and dad come back, they will skin them alive." Liu Sen looked helplessly at the two people who followed him, knowing that it was too late to persuade them, so he stopped caring about it. The most urgent thing was to find the person first. After sensing the fluctuation of magic in one direction, Liu Sen hurried over and finally found some clues beside an obviously collapsed pile of earth. "Wingardium Leviosa." Liu Sen waved his wand violently, and a chain of lightning shot out from it. The situation here is not optimistic. Ron and the twins are still trapped under the dirt pile. Liu Sen added the magic skills he learned while cooking, and cast a large-scale levitation spell. The magic swept across like an electric net. Wherever it passed, the soil suddenly shook and floated up against gravity. There was a sudden movement from the mound that was the focus of attention, and 3 large balls appeared from the floating pile of earth. "Ron, Fred, George, how are you 3 idiots?" After saying that, Liu Sen waved his magic wand lightly and pulled 3 large balls to his front. These were protective suits that had been activated into balls. Without the pressure and danger, the protective suits were automatically retracted, and the 3 dusty guys were released. "Wow, I'm saved. Luckily, you came quickly. Although this dress can save my life, it is really uncomfortable." Liu Sen glared at the 3 mud monkeys fiercely. "Where are the reinforcement guns? Hurry up, this place is going to collapse." The 3 Weasleys looked at each other and pointed to where they were just now. "Probably under the mound." "I did not see it. It may have been crushed." Liu Sen had a dark face, knowing that it was useless to ask. At this time, there was another shaking above their heads, and several people's faces changed. "Run. Hurry up. Wingardium Leviosa." The twins shook their heads. The older brothers should be the ones to take care of the back. Percy was also very responsible. He quickly cast a few levitation spells and shouted, "Run. Leave me alone, Liu." Sen shook his head. "You talk as if you died a heroic death. Okay, I can handle it. Stop talking nonsense." As he said that, he cast another large-scale floating spell. After a brilliant chain of lightning, the speed of the landslide suddenly slowed down. The twins and Percy looked at each other and made a quick decision. Then be careful, don't get pinned down. After they finished talking, they stopped refusing and ran towards the stairs. Protecting their sister, Ginny turned around and shouted, "Liu Sen, what are you going to do?" Liu Sen, holding up his magic wand to support the soil above his head, smiled confidently. "I'll catch up. You guys run." Ginny looked back every few steps as she was dragged away, biting her lip as she disappeared down the stairs. Liu Sen took a deep breath, controlled the large-scale levitation spell, and took out a spare wand. "Transform." Quickly, the pile of earth that was hit quickly twisted and deformed, and a giant monster made of mud stood up from it. The giant monster opened his arms and lifted the ceiling above his head with all his strength. The pressure from Liu Sen's floating spell suddenly decreased. But before he could be happy for a few seconds, the roof suddenly collapsed and deformed. The entire basement began to shrink. The giant was immediately pressed to his knees by the heavy soil. His head made of mud began to deform and crack. Seeing that the situation was not good, Liu Sen ran towards the stairs, but he was soon dumbfounded. The stairs had disappeared, and the entire passage was filled with mud. Could it be possible that I could be buried here? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. The collapse behind him was unstoppable, and Liu Sen's position was about to be buried. Transform. Quickly, the soil under my feet surged and instantly turned into a big refrigerator. Liu Sen dodged and hid inside and closed the door. The next second, the overturned soil pressed up with great force, and the refrigerator instantly made a creaking sound, as if it could not bear the weight. "You're wrong. Just turn it into a safe or a bronze coffin. It's definitely sturdy." The refrigerator kept twisting and compressing like a flattened can, and the space inside was getting smaller and smaller. "Show me the way." Liu Sen waved his wand, identified the direction, raised his hand decisively and shouted, "Fluorescent flash." At the same time, the 5 wheel eyes on the ground were anxiously staring at the collapsed entrance, hoping that Liu Sen could rush out of the mud. But what broke their hearts was that not only did the passage collapse completely, but even the burrow was slowly sinking. Ginny's eyes were wet, and she covered her mouth, trying not to cry out loud. She couldn't believe what she saw. If the burial ground was destroyed, it could be rebuilt, but what if Liu Sen? What should she do? But at this moment, several people turned their heads and looked behind them, where a terrifying magical wave suddenly appeared. The location is right in the direction of the garden, under a little fat pig. The little fat pig that just ran out of the pigsty was at the peak of its life, happily gnawing on the peonies in the garden. The next second, a beam of lightning and fire as thick as a water tank blew it away. A figure flew up from the ground, with a bright red cloak fluttering in the wind. He did not rush to land on the ground, but hovered in the air, to bask in the sunlight, and looked down at the people, who were worried about him with an unfathomable smile. But the next second, ouch. Who hit me with a pig? Chapter 102. There is a treasure under the burrow. The sun was setting. The weird light winds, Ginny and Ron sat around the campfire. Liu Sen waved his wand and used the knife and fork to cut the golden roasted pork into slices, which he then served to their plates. They were eating a whole roasted pig. The little fat pig that was unfortunately blown away by the Lian lightsaber was at the peak of its life the previous second. It escaped from the pig pen and munched on peonies. Then the next second it was baked to 8% done. Although it hit the culprit Liu Sen when it fell, it could not change its fate of becoming a delicacy. Liu Sen ate a few pieces by himself, but the Weasleys were in a bad mood, and their good family was gone. "Alright, comrades. Look on the bright side. The burrow is still intact, isn't it?" The Reason why LIUSEN said this is because the burrow is indeed intact, but it is all underground. Now the only parts exposed are Ron's room and the attic where the zombies live. The 5 floors above ground have now become 1 floor above ground and 4 floors underground. After the collapse, several people entered the burrow from Ron's room and cleaned up the infiltrated soil point after repairing the damaged parts. Weak points such as doors and windows were reinforced. Everything in the house was indeed intact, and the house was intact, except that it had become an underground shack. Ginny put down her chopsticks and muttered, "Bag end." Several Weasleys asked in confusion, "What hole are you talking about, bag end?" LIUSEN, in the story you told me, didn't it say that the house where the hobbits lived was called Bag End? Their house is underground, with only a roof showing. Did you predict that something like this would happen? Ginny asked in surprise. Ron's eyes lit up. Prophecy? Very likely. LIUSEN is very good at prediction. LIUSEN had a wonderful expression, thinking to himself, how could I have predicted something like this? 3 idiots didn't follow the regulations. This doesn't seem to need prediction. Oh, I was careless. I've read this story before. It's just a coincidence. If I had known this would happen, I would never have let them dig it up. At this time, the sound of a car was heard in the distance, and the little Weasleys suddenly became restless. Mr. and Mrs. Weasley got out of the car and stared at the empty lot in amazement. They looked left and right but couldn't find the house. Where is the burrow? Where did our big burrow go? If they hadn't seen the garden and pond not far away, they would have thought they had taken the wrong road. At this moment, Arthur Weasley was suddenly startled and looked towards Ron's room with wide eyes. "Molly, I think I found it. Here." A few minutes later. Mom, don't hit me. It's George. No, Mom, it's Fred. He read the wrong blueprint. You 2 little bastards. I'm going to beat you to death. Ron quietly retreated, but was ruthlessly accused by Percy, so he had to join the escape. Mrs. Weasley, who was unable to outrun the 3 naughty kids, waved her wand and suddenly 3 ropes flew out of the air, pounced on the 3 people like snakes, and tied them up. Then he summoned 3 sticks as thick as arms, and hit them on the buttocks. There was a sudden wailing sound from the open space. It was so tragic. "It's broken. My butt is broken, Mom. We won't dare to do that again." I was wrong. LIUSEN stepped forward. "Show some mercy, Mrs. Weasley. This is actually my fault, Mr." and Mrs. Weasley turned their heads away in astonishment, and the 3 people who had been spanked also raised their heads, grinning miserably and showing expressions of gratitude. LIUSEN, you don't need to beg for mercy. No matter what I say today, I will teach them a lesson they will remember for the rest of their lives. After saying that, he controlled the wooden stick and hit them hard, immediately receiving another 3 consecutive screams. Actually, it was my idea to dig the basement. I also helped make the tools. If you want to fight, fight me too. LIUSEN said with a repentant expression. Mrs. Weasley looked at LIUSEN in disbelief, but still did not believe what he said, and just thought he was making excuses for them. After another round of screams, Ginny felt a little bit sorry. Although her brothers did deserve to be beaten, they were still her brothers after all. So the little girl came up to LIUSEN, silently pulled his sleeve, and stared at him with her watery eyes. LIUSEN nodded and started to fool people. Actually, I predicted something. When these words came out, everyone was shocked and turned their eyes to him. LIUSEN thought for a moment and said, my ability to predict requires inspiration. Just a few days ago, I saw a picture in my dream. Arthur Weasley worked in the Ministry of Magic for many years and had seen many incredible things. He had also heard of LIUSEN's predictions and asked curiously, what scene? Will the burrow collapse? LIUSEN pretended to be lost in memory. He shook his head, and when he looked at everyone again, his eyes were filled with enthusiasm. I saw gold. Gold as big as a room. It's right under the burrow. The 3 people who were beaten suddenly widened their eyes, and the looks they exchanged with each other revealed, it's over. This cover is too outrageous. Of course, the Weasleys didn't believe it. They wouldn't believe anyone who said there was a huge amount of gold buried under the house they had lived in for more than 30 years. Ron sighed in his heart. Man, you have to be careful when lying. I'm not sure if you can believe me if I tell you a box of it, but the next second, Liu Sen found Ron. Ron is very supportive of me. He said my predictions have never been wrong. Right, Ron? Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Ron also risked his life. Yes. Liu Sen's predictions are amazing. He has predicted many times in school. I have witnessed it with my own eyes. So, a few days ago he said there is gold underground. Then, definitely there is. There is a lot of gold under the house. Liu Sen took the opportunity to nod to Ron and wink at the twins. The twins rolled their eyes and understood the current situation. Although they didn't know what Liu Sen was up to, the biggest challenge now was to calm their parents down. Let's study it later. So the twins, who were in tune with each other, began to tell in a serious manner how Liu Sen convinced them that the gold as big as a house was deep underground, and they even saw golden light before the landslide. Ron couldn't help but wonder, is there really gold under his house? Mr. and Mrs. Weasley were confused, but they were also excited by the description of the huge amount of gold. Although their family is much wealthier now, they are still a long way from financial freedom or rebuilding a mansion. They had been through hard times for too long, and now that Mrs. Weasley had finally earned a good income, the couple decided to make up for what they had owed their children over the years. She bought new clothes, new books, mobile phones, toys, high-end food and plenty of pocket money for the twins, Percy, Ron and Ginny, who were already in school and were about to go to school. There was still not much surplus from the money earned, and the family's wealth was no match for other pure-blood families. If there really is a piece of gold as big as a room buried under your house, then the vault at home will be full. Who dares to say that the Weasley family is poor in the future? The couple had dreams of a better life, and although they were still skeptical about the gold, they finally spared the 3 people who were sticking their butts up. But the 3 Weasleys were muttering in their hearts, gold? Where can we get gold? Gold as big as a house. Chapter 103, Getting Rich. In Liu Sen's opinion, gold was not a problem at all. At the end of the semester, he used the magic stone to fill the 4 bedrooms, 2 living rooms, 1 kitchen, 2 bathrooms and backpack space in the door with gold. Some time ago, Liu Sen took out a small portion of it and exchanged it for a few £100 million in gold galleons, and then left to study of gold for fun. There is a golden house in the book, and the rest was placed in Gringotts. So Liu Sen's lie that there was gold under the burrow was not difficult to solve, as there was plenty of space inside the door. The problem is how to convince Mr. and Mrs. Weasley. If he piled up the shiny uniform-sized gold bars in the dirt, it would surely arouse their suspicion. So Liu Sen quietly pulled the twins and Ron aside and told them the plan. You're crazy. How much money would that be? No, Ron said in shock. The Weasley twins also put away their playful expressions and patted Liu Sen seriously. Hey man, we know you are rich, but we can't accept so much gold from you. That's right, Liu Sen. You don't think you can get us to sell our sister to you by using gold? Haha, just kidding. We appreciate your kindness. Don't worry, Mom won't do anything to us. Liu Sen had expected this. He showed a profiteer's expression and said, of course I can't give it to you for free. You all have to sign a contract to sell your bodies to me. Seeing the 3 people looking at him in confusion, Liu Sen continued, I'm very optimistic about the research and development capabilities of the Weasley twins. From now on, the 100 valuable inventions you invent will belong to me. I will deduct the gold money from the profits with interest. So you should hurry up and invent. The twins were stunned. Fred said, no way. Don't we have to work for you forever? That's right. 100 inventions for a house-sized amount of gold. Are we crazy? You are dreaming. I'm talking about the size of the house. And that is just a description. Do you know how valuable gold is? I will give you half a cubic meter. The 3 of them looked at each other in bewilderment. They knew that gold was valuable, but how much was it worth? That was unclear. So, are you going to sign or not? Liu Sen asked, rubbing his hands. The twins looked at each other pulled Ron aside and muttered, half a cubic meter? That's not much, right? Signed. What? Should I sign? I don't know how to invent something. Ron said embarrassedly. Liu touched his chin and thought, this is a bit difficult. How should I fool him? If it's you, you will become a Quidditch star in the future. Your exclusive agency rights will be mine. I want the biggest share of the advertising fees. Liu said with an expression of success. Really? I could be a Quidditch star. Which team? The Chudley Cannons? What position would I play? Beater or chaser? Liu Sen patted his shoulder and said mysteriously, I can't reveal too much. You know Ron completely ignored the agency rights and advertising commissions. He was completely immersed in the fantasy of becoming a Quidditch star. After dealing with the three people, Liu Sen told the Weasleys and others a prepared speech. The location of the gold is near where we dug before. Let's make a few more digging guns and reinforcement guns, and then we can dig slowly. But the excited Weasleys immediately rubbed their hands, saying that the rough work could be left to the adults. The children could just watch from the side. No one could persuade them. However, thanks to the fact that the burrow is currently buried deep underground, the two entered from Ron's room and went all the way down to the kitchen. After opening the door, they could start construction more than 10 meters underground. The Weasley's magical attainments are higher than Liu Sen and his companions combined. Arthur Weasley worked in the misuse of Muggle artifacts department of the Ministry of Magic, dealing with strange magical creations all day long. Needless to say, his magical abilities. Molly Weasley's magic is also not weak. Don't think that she is average just because she deals with needles, thread, fabrics, pots, and pans all day long. In the original book, she is a fierce person who singled out Bellatrix Lestrange, who is Voldemort's capable general, the craziest Death Eater. Mrs. Weasley beat the opponent into ashes in just a few moves. The two were very active under the temptation of gold, and cooperated tacitly, one digging the soil and the other cleaning it. Floating, reinforcing, hardening, deforming, all kinds of spells were at their fingertips. In just a short while, they cleared out a fairly large space in the soil outside the kitchen of the burrow. However, after working all night, the couple didn't see a single piece of gold. However, Liu Sen was sharp-eyed and saw the modified gun buried deep in the soil. Fortunately, he was quick and destroyed it in an instant. The two found nothing, but they were not discouraged and decided to take a rest and continue tomorrow. If gold really existed, could it have long legs and run away? The family returned to their rooms to sleep. Arthur Weasley cast magic on the windows of every room, through which you can see meadows, hills, the moon, clouds, stars, just like the real thing. The Ministry of Magic is underground, and he is familiar with the magic on the fake windows. You can change it if you want. There are all kinds of scenery. If you don't think about it, it's no different from the original except for Ron's room. His place has become the first floor, and outside the window are chickens walking and goblins roaming at night. The next day, the Weasleys started digging again before dawn, but still returned with no success. After they went to work, Liu Sen left Ron to play with Ginny and took the Weasley twins to the underground. The Weasleys had dug out an intricate corridor here, but they were cautious enough to use permanent transfiguration to create many stone beams, thus ensuring the safety of the corridor. After reaching the end of the corridor, Liu Sen took out his door. Let's go together? Liu Sen asked. After stepping in, the twins nodded happily and followed Liu Sen into the interior. They had been here many times, but this was their first time since the holiday. Liu Sen led them to the closed study room, took off the small sign that said under maintenance and said, "Don't get too excited next." Then, he opened the door, while the two people looked at him in confusion. Hiss, hiss, they both gasped at the same time, contributing to the fight against the greenhouse effect. The study was filled with gold. Neatly stacked gold nuggets stretched from the ground to the ceiling. The moment the door opened, the unique golden light shone out, shining on the twins' faces, but it hit their hearts like a heavy hammer. Gold. All gold. The golden light makes people's eyes blurry. Fred patted George beside him stupidly. "Brother, pinch me." George was stunned for a second, then pinched himself. "Well, it's not a dream." Liu Sen took out the thunder wand and used the levitation spell to transport a small pile of gold nuggets in batches. That is all. Looking at the neatly stacked gold bars, the twins couldn't help but ask. It's not that they are greedy, but there is no harm without comparison. Liu Sen still has so many in his study, but the volume of the pile in front of him is about the same as 2 large suitcases. Liu Sen looked at the two of them with a meaningful look. How much do you think this gold is worth? The two brothers looked at each other. 5,000 gold galleons. I think at least 8,000 gold galleons. Liu Sen shook his head. This is half a cubic meter of pure gold, almost 10 tons. The two of them widened their eyes. Although they were not used to the unit of ton, they had a rough idea of what weight it meant. Is that worth 10,000 gold galleons? The two brothers were stunned by the value they said. Now they didn't think the pile of gold was less, but they were worried about when they could pay it back. Liu Sen smiled and said calmly, actually, it's about 65 gold galleons. With 2 snaps, the two of them sat directly on the ground. 10 minutes later, the two brothers supported each other and followed Liu Sen to transform. Quickly, a chain of lightning struck down, and suddenly a dense swarm of little ants emerged on the ground. The gold in the brothers' eyes faded away immediately, and they said in horror, "Why did you create so many ants? Wow, that's too many. How did you change?" Of course I learned it from Mrs. Weasley. Weren't you all there when she taught me? The two brothers were indifferent and speechless. They taught you how to cook and wash dishes. What did you learn? I saw a huge army of ants lined up neatly, and under Liu Sen's command, they formed in and B. Liu Sen nodded with satisfaction, and at a command, the ants began to dig holes in the ground. The ants were incredibly efficient, and in a short while they all burrowed into the soil point. After waiting for 2 minutes, the ants came out. Liu Sen waved his wand lightly, lifted the transformation magic, and the diligent little ants instantly turned into dust. Looking at the small holes left by the ants, the Weasley twins were completely confused and didn't understand what Liu Sen was doing. You two are responsible for the levitation spell, making all the gold float. The twins took out their wands and began to cast a spell, and then they truly understood how heavy 10 tons was. The twins, holding their wands tightly in both hands, gritted their teeth and shouted, "Why is this thing so heavy? It's heavier than 10 cars." Liu Sen calmly stabbed the lightning sword into the gold nugget and replied, "Your car weighs about 1.5 tons, so this gold is only about as heavy as 6 cars. Seeing that the two were struggling, Liu Sen took out a pair of chopsticks, and while maintaining the thunder flame lightning sword with his right hand, he cast a floating spell with his left hand to help share the pressure between the two. Under the terrifying high temperature of the thunder flame light sword, the gold was quickly melted into golden water that emitted a bright yellow light. The horrible heat wave hit us in the face, turning the small space into an oven. Liu Sen quickly cast a large water film to isolate the heat. Then the three of them worked together to pour the boiling hot gold water into the ant nest. Soon after, the Weasleys started digging again at night. They finally discovered the hidden gold underground. After digging it up, the Weasleys were shocked to find that the piece of gold was actually as big as the house. It just has an irregular shape and is covered with potholes and gravel. Liu Sen said confidently, "Congratulations. This is a naturally formed piece of high quality gold rough stone. In my hometown of China, this is called negative gold." Surrounded by happiness, the Weasleys immediately fell into a sea of joy. But no one knew what the twins and Ron were thinking. Chapter 104, Rebuilding the Burrow. When the gold was dug out, Liu Sen immediately cleaned up many of the burn marks. Then, at his enthusiastic suggestion, the Weasleys readily agreed to the plan to remelt the gold. With the help of the Weasleys, the smelted gold nuggets were finally evenly divided into hundreds of small gold bars. At this point, all traces of Liu Sen's intervention have been wiped out. After the Weasleys exchanged the gold for gold galleons, their vault was suddenly filled to the brim. The goblins even suggested that they upgrade to a higher level vault in case they couldn't close the vault door. The happy Mrs. Weasley took a day off and spent the whole day at home smiling from ear to ear. She looked at the Weasley twins and Ron with unusual affection. Mr. and Mrs. Weasley didn't know how to thank Liu for providing the prophecy, and they insisted on giving him half of the gold. He also said that if Liu had not predicted about gold, they would not be able to find the wealth buried deep underground, even if they lived here for 100 years. Of course Liu declined politely, saying that the gold was destined to belong to the Weasley family. If they wanted to express their gratitude, they could just reserve a guest room for him when they built a new house. To Liu's surprise, the Weasleys, whose vaults were full, were not in a hurry to build a new house. Instead, he invited Lupin to consult professionals to see if there was any way to rebuild the underground burrow. However, at Liu's implicit hint, Lupin expressed regretfully that due to structural problems and years of disrepair, the burrow might not be completely dug out of the ground. Mrs. Weasley couldn't help but shed tears of regret when she learned of the verdict. This house carried the growth and memories of a family, and every corner was full of happiness and stories. As the saying goes, a nest of gold or silver is not as good as your own doghouse. No matter how much money they have, they still miss every little bit of their old and dilapidated house. Fortunately, the shack in the mud does not affect its use at all, and with Lupin's professional treatment, it is guaranteed not to decay for decades. It is not a problem whether it is used for temporary residence or to go in for nostalgia from time to time. The next thing to face is the issue of reconstruction. Since the burial site cannot be restored, let's just build a new house. The Weasley family was so poor in the past that all the children used worn-out second-hand items, and their textbooks and utensils were inherited by the brothers. Ron even picked up his pet mouse from his brother. So after becoming really rich, the Weasleys suddenly stopped spending money. Lupin personally accompanied them to choose the house type. There were classical, modern, luxurious, simple styles. The variety of houses made the whole family dazzled. Finally, Liu helped with the design and impressed Ginny, and then the construction plan was finalized. A few days later, more than a dozen modified heavy trucks stopped next to the burrow. Lupin personally brought more than a dozen technical backbones to operate the system. In order to protect the burrow, they simply dug up all the underground. Now the location of the burrow has become a huge sinkhole. The 10-meter long surrounding area of the burrow has been dug into an open-air cliff. Then a circle of small holes were dug again at the bottom of the cliff, and a kind of magically transformed seeds were buried in them. A moment later, dark grey vines broke out of the ground, each as thick as an arm. Their growth rate was astonishing. Under the control of the magicians, they intertwined and entangled with each other, tightly covering the ground and walls of the entire underground space. The magic vines rooted in the soil not only stabilized the soil on the four walls, but also separated a part of them to climb upwards, and finally merged in mid-air, outlining a regular and beautiful dome frame. After it took shape, the spells chanted by the magicians began to change. The color of the vines deepened further and became as hard as stone. On these special dome foundations, large pieces of magic glass bricks were laid on top, and then the above ground part was constructed with reinforced concrete. The construction process went smoothly, and the whole team cooperated very well. In just one morning, the entire construction was completed. The new burial site was built. This place is very different from the previous rural appearance. The road has been repaved, and the concrete and asphalt road surface commonly used by muggles is used in the distance. After entering the beautiful iron gate, the road inside is paved with colorful bricks and stones, which is both classic and full of life. The original pond was renovated, the emerald green water and frogs were moved elsewhere, and the water became clean, clear and transparent. The pig pen and chicken coop were moved to the backyard, and the garden and vegetable patch were slightly renovated and neatly placed on both sides of the courtyard. In terms of the main building, the biggest difference between the new burrow and ordinary British mansions is that it is built on a potledge-shaped mound. The earth mound is covered with emerald green grass, just like the surrounding grounds. If you look closely, you'll find windows and a beautiful round door on top. It actually looks like a larger version of Bag End, the home of the Hobbits and the Lord of the Rings. The stairs provide direct access to the mansion above Bag End, which is spacious and elegant inside, with a reasonable layout and complete facilities. The first floor is a shared space including the living room, dining room, kitchen, and library, while the 4 floors above are bedrooms and guest rooms, each with its own bathroom. There is plenty of room for each of the Weasleys. In addition, there are activity rooms, chess and card rooms, screening rooms, and fitness rooms. The new burrow even thoughtfully installed a small elevator. Of course, it was powered by magic. Take the elevator down, and you will come to a huge underground space. The burrow was preserved intact below, having simply moved from above ground to underground. Standing outside the burrow and looking up, you will be surprised to find that it does not feel dark at all, but is full of mystery and grandeur. The semicircular dome above was cast with a special magic, allowing sunlight to shine in smoothly through the windows of Bag End and the floor of the first floor. The pond diagonally above was also cast with magic. Not only did the rippling waves reflect the rainbow-like light, but the water was also led into the underground space by clever reciprocating magic, forming a beautiful waterfall flowing down. The surrounding walls are covered with lush green branches and vines, with colorful flowers blooming on them, which is a beautiful sight. The birds created by magic circled and danced in the air, chirping pleasantly from time to time. Beams of light shine down obliquely, giving people a feeling of being in a fairyland in the valley. LIUSEN, HMM. Are the above ground buildings redundant? The new house was successfully built, and the burrow was perfectly preserved. All the Weasleys were grinning from ear to ear. A grand banquet was held that night, and Lupin, LIUSEN's family, and neighbors were invited to share this happy moment together. Bill in Egypt and Charlie in Romania called and expressed their joy that their family had obtained the treasure and rebuilt a new house. At the banquet, in addition to Mrs. Weasley's specialties, LIUSEN's Chinese dishes were of course indispensable. The spacious kitchen allows him to display his cooking skills to his heart's content. LIUSEN also learned a few magical skills from working with Mrs. Weasley, and he couldn't help but feel in a good mood. At the dinner table, LIUSEN's parents and uncle brought several bottles of good wine, among which the Malte was widely praised, especially by Mr. Weasley and Cedric's father. Both of them liked this strong liquor very much, and drank it with great enjoyment. Among the invited neighbors were Luna and her daughter. It was the first time LIUSEN met them. He had to say that they did have unique temperaments. Luna's father, Xenophilius, was the editor-in-chief of the Quibbler. The Galaxy Group had long cooperated with him, and LIUSEN and him found many common topics. When LIUSEN talked about future developments and mentioned the concepts of internet and artificial intelligence, Xenophilius expressed his great anticipation and said that if LIUSEN didn't mind, he would publish today's topic in the Quibbler. The little girl Luna wore a pendant made of a bottle cork and a small carrot. Her eyes were always wandering. She was not very interested in the new house, but she liked the underground space very much, which instantly won Ginny's approval. This clever little girl is going to school this year. She is in the same grade as Ginny. After a few exchanges, the two quickly became good friends who can talk about anything. Chapter 105. Bill and Charlie. Harry and Hermione received an invitation from Ron on the second day after the burrow was built. Hermione took a taxi directly to Devon, and then Ron drove her back happily. As for Harry, Dursley certainly wouldn't send him here, let alone give him taxi money. It was LIUSEN who sent someone to pick him up. Hermione and Harry were both stunned by the mansion in front of them. They had already learned about the construction of a new house through mobile phone conversations, but seeing it in person gave them a different feeling. Both of them praised the new house and the underground setting, and after tasting LIUSEN's cooking in the evening, they felt that the trip was worthwhile. The next day, an owl delivered the little wizard's book ordering list and school notice. All of them had the same yellow parchment envelope with emerald green writing on it. As soon as LIUSEN saw the beautiful and long artistic calligraphy, he knew it was Dumbledore's handwriting. As expected, nothing could be hidden from him. Second grade students, please prepare the Standard Book of Spells, Level 2, by Miranda Goshawk. The Break with the Ghost by Gilderoy Lockhart. Hanging with Gals by Gilderoy Lockhart. Holidays with the Hag by Gilderoy Lockhart. Walking with Trolls by Gilderoy Lockhart. Sailing with Vampires by Gilderoy Lockhart. Wandering with Werewolves by Gilderoy Lockhart. A Year with the Tibetan Yeti by Gilderoy Lockhart. LIUSEN couldn't help but complain in his heart. This is Lockhart here to sell books. Fred behind him took a look at LIUSEN's book list and his eyes widened. Are you going to buy so many books written by Gilderoy Lockhart in your second year? It seems that the new defense against the dark arts teacher is a fan of his. Maybe she is a witch. No, it's Lockhart himself. Liusen said helplessly. Lockhart will be the worst defense against the dark arts teacher in the next few years, Mrs. Weasley came forward immediately and asked excitedly, really? Gilderoy Lockhart will be a professor at Hogwarts? Oh, that's great. You are such lucky little wizards. Even Hermione showed a happy expression, with a slight blush on her face. Liusen tilted his head, feeling incredible, because in fact, Lockhart was a big liar. All the stories in his book were plagiarized from others. After getting the story he wanted, this guy would even despicably erase the original owner's memory. Then he would write his own legendary story to deceive everyone. So Gilderoy Lockhart is just a fake with nothing on the outside. Apart from his superb level of oblivion charm, he is good for nothing else. After getting the shopping list, the young wizards planned to set off immediately, but were stopped by Mrs. Weasley. Let's go next Wednesday. That's Gilderoy Lockhart's book signing event. You can get his autographed works then. Hermione was the only one in the audience who was looking forward to it, while the other boys couldn't understand it at all. In the evening, Ron's eldest brother Bill and second brother Charlie all return home. The two of them had always been thinking about the two happy events of rebuilding their new home and discovering the treasure, so they took some time off to go home and visit. The eldest and second oldest children have a deeper affection for the burrow than their younger brothers and sisters. They were deeply moved after visiting the beautiful and comfortable mansion above ground and the completely preserved burrow underground. The good life at home has relieved the two of them of their worries. They are both young people who have just entered society, and the money they earn is just enough for their own lives. This time they finally don't have to worry about their family. Bill is a capable and calm handsome guy with an elite aura. He was always a top student in school, and later successfully became a supervisor and the president of the student union. Percy has always taken him as a role model. Currently, Bill works as a curse breaker in Gringotts in Egypt. Without extremely high magical talent and solid magical knowledge, you can't do this job. Charlie is a very solid man who looks honest and straightforward. He is also a legend in school. Not only is he an excellent student, but he is also the captain of the Quidditch team. Because he plays Quidditch very well, the professional team took the initiative to sign him. As long as he agrees, he will become a Quidditch star immediately after graduation. But he did something even cooler, raising dragons in Romania. During dinner, the twins were whispering in their brother's ears from time to time. You didn't need to listen, you could guess the general content, just by looking at their eyes and smiles. When they looked at Liusen and Ginny. Liusen's hair stood on end the whole time, and he felt nervous about meeting a parent. He couldn't help but mutter in his heart, is it okay for you to talk about your own sister like this? She is only 11 years old. Do you have to be so open? Although I grew up in the open West, my soul is traditional Chinese. After dinner, something happened that made Liusen even more nervous. Bill wanted to see the pit where the gold was dug out. The Weasley twins had strange looks in their eyes, but they couldn't resist the majesty of their eldest brother and took him deep into the underground. The gold excavation site was not deliberately preserved, but at the request of the twins and Liusen, Lupin and his team built a laboratory deep underground in the burrow. When they built the house, which just happened to include that place, Bill's magic skills were quite advanced, and archaeological excavation happened to be his specialty. After a few detection spells, Bill's expression suddenly became interesting. The bad feeling in Liusen's heart became more and more obvious, and the twins also changed their usual playful expressions. They had admired this older brother since they were young. The three of them secretly exchanged glances and saw helplessness and panic in each other's eyes. Bill turned and put his arm around the twins' shoulders. Do you have anything to say to me? The twins ignored Liusen's expression and sold each other out sincerely. Bill turned his gaze to Liusen, his expression becoming more formal. So, give me a reason. This is a big deal. Liu.Sen wiped the non-existent sweat from his forehead and said boldly, do you believe me if I say it's for Ginny? I don't believe it. The other party answered very straightforwardly, okay, then I'll be honest. Liusen was prepared. He knew that Ginny would not be convinced by her excuse. Actually, I'm doing this for the Weasley twins to pay back your entire Weasley family. The three Weasleys frowned slightly. What do you mean? Isn't it for Ginny and our inventive abilities? Really? How come it's related to the Weasley family? The twins asked puzzledly. Ron told you about our underground adventure at the end of last semester, right? The three of them nodded. Ron had mentioned this in the family chat group, and he also emphasized his heroic image. Liu put on a serious expression and continued. Then do you know who Harry and I fought against in the end? George blurted out. I know, Quirrell. The professors have told everyone about your affairs. Quirrell wanted to steal the Philosopher's Stone. It was you who stopped him. No. Liu Sen looked into the eyes of the three people and said word by word. Actually, it was Voldemort. The three of them were shocked. They had all heard this name when they were little. The elder Bill had even experienced that horrific era himself. Ah, you sure? Voldemort? Bill lowered his voice and asked seriously. It's absolutely true, but Dumbledore is afraid of causing panic, so he asked Harry and I to keep it a secret for the time being, but he was already dead back then. He was killed by Harry. It must have been the protective magic left to him by Harry's mother that killed him. Liu Sen's eyes lit up. He was worthy of being Gringotts' curse breaker. He was so professional when it came to curses, guardian magic and the like. It's a Horcrux. Bill's eyes narrowed instantly. It was obvious that he knew something about this evil thing. The twins didn't understand the situation, but seeing their eldest brother's serious expression, they didn't ask any questions. After a while, Bill asked, but what does Voldemort's survival have to do with you giving us gold? It's so relevant. Liu Sen looked at the twins and continued. When we were in school, we created a semi-automatic energy storage magic weapon. It's also called a magic gun. If the Weasley twins hadn't helped me create this thing, I would have been killed by Voldemort. So, the gold includes a thank you to Fred and George. Liu Sen smiled at the twins. Actually, we built it together. The inspiration was you. I think you can kill him with the illumination charm. It can kill anything. The twins laughed but Bill still didn't get a satisfactory answer, so he continued to ask, what do you mean by it's related to the Weasley family? Liu Sen coughed lightly. I'm of Chinese cultivation family bloodline, and I inherited some of my ancestors' gift for prediction. I saw the importance of the Weasley family in the future fight against Voldemort, so I invested in advance. You're welcome. We are all on the same front, just helping each other. The twins were surprised, and they talked to their eldest brother about Liu Sen's predictive ability point. After being frightened by Voldemort in the future war, Bill was silent for a long time and finally let down his guard against Liu Sen point. Just when Liu Sen breathed a sigh of relief, Bill smiled and patted him on the shoulder. You are loyal, courageous, capable, young and Rick. I approve of you as my brother-in-law. Liu Sen. Ah, all the things I said before were in vain, right? Chapter 106 Diagon Alley and Nocturne Alley. It's a rare occasion for the Weasleys to get together, and they all had a great time playing together at the burrow these past few days ever since Bill found out the origin of the gold and learned about Voldemort's information. He and Liu Sen have become much closer. Liu Sen was also happy to communicate with his powerful elder brother. The other party had a wealth of knowledge about magic, and he could always learn a lot from chatting with him. Charlie is also a talkative person. Ron, who is also obsessed with dragons, hangs around his second brother all day long, asking questions about the dragon farm. When a few people asked Hagrid about the latest situation of the little dragon, they were surprised to learn that the Norwegian ridgeback named Norba was actually a female. After Charlie and his colleagues discovered this, they changed its name, and it is now called Nobita. The little guy is living well in Romania and has long adapted to life there. He is growing up healthily along with the other little dragons in the reserve. Now he has grown to the size of a car. Bill and Charlie both came back after taking annual leave. A few days of vacation passed in a flash. Early in the morning, after taking a group photo with everyone, they left using the portkey, a magic item that can quickly teleport to a specific point over a long distance that they had applied for in advance. Point before leaving, Bill gave Liu Sen a meaningful look and asked the twins to add him to the Weasley's Fire Dragon chat group. After they left, the Weasleys also took action because that day happened to be Childeroy Lockhart's new book signing day. There are 7 members of the Weasley family, plus Liu Sen, Harry and Hermione. It is not suitable to drive with so many people. Then Mrs. Weasley said, "Children, let's flew over." After that, the group came to the Burrow Underground. The fireplace here was registered with the Ministry of Magic, and only through it could they reach the other fireplaces. She took down a small flower pot from the fireplace, and inside it was the shiny Floo powder. What should I do?" Harry asked nervously. Mr. Weasley was surprised. He didn't expect that Harry had never used Floo powder. After asking, he learned that Harry had taken the subway to Diagon Alley last year. He immediately became interested and asked questions about the things in the subway station. Hermione, who had also never taken a Floo powder trip, felt a little uneasy. She really wanted to find a book to read some operating instructions. Mrs. Weasley interrupted her husband's curious inquiry and patiently explained to Harry and Hermione, "Just sprinkle the Floo powder in the fireplace and read the address clearly." The Weasley twins demonstrated it to them, and one by one they disappeared in green flames. When it was Harry's turn, Liu Sen reminded him, "Make sure you pronounce your words clearly. Don't make any mistakes. Hold your arms tight." Ron added, "Don't choke on the coal fumes." Mrs. Weasley said worriedly. But after several people's repeated instructions, Harry didn't remember a single word. After he sprinkled the Floo powder, he immediately choked on the ash and stammered without adjusting his posture. "Yes. Diagon Alley." Liu Sen immediately held his forehead with his hand. Even though he had reminded the other party, he still made a mistake. "Follow. Forget it. I remember it was very dirty and messy over there." Ron and the others were very worried about Harry, so they quickened their pace and walked into the fireplace one by one to Diagon Alley. Liu Sen entered the fireplace after Ginny. He could vaguely see Ginny in front of him in the rapidly spinning vortex of flames like a flush toilet. When Liu Sen walked out of the fireplace in Diagon Alley, he was still in a daze and heard Ginny's pleasant laughter. "I knew you'd get dizzy." Liu Sen's arm was supported by the little girl. Although he dispelled the dizziness in 2 seconds, he did not break free. Instead, he joked, "Can your thin arms support me? Don't let me fall. Lulu. If you're afraid of falling, don't help me. I'll throw you in the alley and sell you. Who wants to buy me? How about I sell you out? There must be a lot of people willing to." "Hey, wait." Liu Sen looked around and saw that no one was paying attention to this side, so he quickly performed a cleaning move. Ginny's face and clothes that were stained by chimney ash regained their luster, and her naughty princess temperament was revealed again. "It's clean now. I can sell it for a high price." "I'll beat you to death." Liu Sen, who was attacked by the pink fist, quickly raised his hands in surrender and then fired a clean lightning chain at the people who had gathered. Mr. and Mrs. Weasley began to look for Harry anxiously. "What if we lose him? How are we going to explain this to his aunt and uncle?" Liu Sen advised, "Don't worry, he must be nearby. He won't be lost. I have a feeling that if we find Hagrid, we can find Harry." Everyone had seen the prophecies that Liu Sen occasionally displayed, so when he said this, everyone felt a little relieved. Liu Sen joked again, "Harry's uncle and aunt won't care at all. They may even think that Harry's disappearance in the chimney is a great joke." After about 10 minutes, everyone finally saw Hagrid standing out from the crowd. He was so tall, a few people squeezed through the crowd and finally got close to him, and sure enough, they found the dusty Harry beside him. "Harry." Hermione walked forward worriedly and gave him a hug. Ron on the side instantly felt a little regretful. If he had deliberately gone to the same place with Harry, would he have received the same treatment? However, he soon discovered the miserable condition of his friend. Harry had scratches on his face and hands, and his glasses were broken into pieces. Somehow Pointy drew out his wand and was about to show off his talent, but was stopped by his father Mr. Weasley took Harry's glasses, tapped them with his wand, and returned them to him as good as new. There are a lot of people here. People under the age of 17 are not allowed to perform magic outside of school. You'd better be careful. He gave Liu-Sen a look. Liu-Sen smiled awkwardly, indicating that he knew he was wrong. He turned around and looked at Ginny, who smiled secretly and gave him a face. Hagrid, how was your vacation? Liu-Sen greeted. Ha. Liu-Sen, you're here too. Everything is fine, except the vegetable garden. It's almost destroyed by slugs. I found Harry when I was looking for special pesticides. He was actually in Nocturne Alley. At this point, Hagrid frowned. That's not a good place, Ron. And the Weasley twins looked very excited and said they had wanted to go and see it for a long time, but the adults wouldn't let them. Mrs. Weasley glared at the naughty child, then looked at Harry carefully with pity. Oh, Harry, darling, you could have gone anywhere. We were all worried to death. After saying that, she held Hagrid's big hand and said gratefully, that's Nocturne Alley. Thanks for finding him, Hagrid. After chatting for a few words, Hagrid said, I have to go. See you at Hogwarts. Then he strode away, a head and a shoulder taller than everyone on the street. Harry told everyone what he had just seen in Nocturne Alley. After he mispronounced the address, he accidentally entered a shop called Borgin & Burke's in Nocturne Alley, which was full of strange and bizarre dark magic items. Liu-Sen was thinking, there seems to be something interesting in that store. He immediately took out his mobile phone and sent a message to Lupin, asking him to buy the item when he is free. On the other side, when Harry mentioned that he had run into Malfoy and his father, Mr. Weasley asked vigilantly, what did Lucius Malfoy buy? No, he wants to sell something. Harry shook his head. Humph. He's scared. I really want to find evidence against him, but Mrs. Weasley advised, be careful, Arthur. That family is not easy to deal with. Don't bite bones you can't chew. Mr. Weasley was a little unhappy. Do you think I can't beat him? Our family is different now than it was in the past. By this time, the group had already arrived at Gringotts. Under the guidance of the goblins, they rode in a small car and sped all the way to the Weasley family's underground vault. Liu-Sen enjoyed riding in it very much. This thing was much more stable than Mr. Weasley's car. As the vault door opened, a golden light suddenly shone on everyone's faces. The Weasley family stared at it in fascination for a while. It was such a wonderful feeling. This vault was empty a month ago, but now the door can hardly be closed. After grabbing a few handfuls of gold coins, everyone followed Harry to his vault. Harry's parents left him an inheritance. Although it was not as exaggerated as that of the Weasley family, it was still a considerable amount. Liu-Sen, do you want to withdraw money? Ron asked. I won't take it. There's enough change in my backpack. The Weasley twins complained in their hearts. Do you have any misunderstanding about the word change? Is that change in your backpack? When she returned to the hall, Hermione stopped and took out a few pounds from her bag to exchange them. Mr. Weasley immediately looked at it with curiosity. Molly, look. Muggle currency. After Hermione had changed the money, everyone separated at the bank in trance. Percy wanted to buy a new quill. The Weasley twins went to see their good friend Lee Jordan. Mrs. Weasley had to go back to the company, and Harry and the other two wanted to go for a stroll. Meet at Flourish and Blots in an hour. I'll buy you textbooks. After Mrs. Weasley gave her instructions, everyone left, leaving only Ginny and Liu-Sen. Liu-Sen, why are you running so fast? Chapter 107 Shopping with Little Lolly. Mrs. Weasley smiled and said to Liu-Sen, dear, I'm worried about Ginny being alone. Why don't you accompany Ginny to go shopping? I will go back to the company to see if Ginny's dress is ready. What could Liu-Sen say? He looked at Ginny, who looked expectant, and then at Mrs. Weasley, who smiled kindly at him. He had no choice but to smile and agree. The two of them strolled down Diagon Alley, walking on the cobblestone roads. Show me your list, Ginny. Ginny, blushed and took the list out of her pocket. While Liusen was studying the order of purchase, Ginny suddenly pulled his sleeve. What's wrong? Liusen followed the little girl's gaze and saw that it was a little wizard passing by who was eating ice cream. He immediately smiled and said, "Little greedy cat. Let's go buy some ice cream too." Ginny immediately smiled and shouted sweetly, "Great. Brother Liusen is the best." When the cute girl called him like this, Liusen's heart was immediately touched, and he felt completely embraced by cuteness. When they got to the ice cream shop, Ginny ordered a big strawberry peanut butter ice cream, and Liusen ordered mango chocolate cream flavor. The two of them ate while walking, feeling very comfortable. After having the delicious food, the two were no longer nervous, and with the help of the bustling crowd, they gradually relaxed and returned to chatting on the phone. According to Muggle health theories, ice cream is very high in calories and can easily make you fat. Are you afraid? Lulu. I'm not afraid. Who are you trying to scare? I'll just eat it. After I'm done, I'll eat yours too. While chasing and playing, the two came to a Quidditch boutique, and Ginny, a Quidditch fan, acted as a commentator and knew everything about it. This is the Nimbus 2001. I've personally test driven it. It has excellent performance, flexible steering, and 5-star maneuverability. The workmanship is excellent. Thanks to our sponsor, Mr. Liusen. I'll give you a bite of my ice cream as a reward. Eat less. It's annoying. Give me a bite of yours. It's so cold. Well, this is the jersey of the Chudley Cannons, Ron's favorite team. He would be unable to move if he saw this. Look at this. This is a life-size specimen of the golden snidget. It's rare to see a live one nowadays. Liusen swallowed the strawberry peanut butter ice cream and looked at the beautiful little bird in the glass cover in front of him with confusion. It looked similar to a hummingbird, but its body was round and its wings were thin and slender. This is very similar to the golden snitch, fool, because the golden snitch was made according to it. In the 12th century, it was very popular to catch these poor little bads called golden snitch. Starting in 1269, they were put on the court to increase the fun. When they were about to escape from the court, they would be driven back with an expulsion spell. When they were killed, the game would end. Isn't it cruel? Later, the golden snitch became an endangered species, and a wizard named Bowman Wright invented the golden snitch to replace them. And it has been used ever since. Liu-Sen touched the little girl's head and praised, "Amazing. I'm the first one to know. Huh. Isn't that awesome? I know everything about Quidditch." Ginny's lips curled up, and she smiled particularly brightly. The two met Fred, George and Lee Jordan at the jumping and playing magic joke shop, and they bought a lot of strange things such as Philibber fireworks and magic fireworks that bloom when they see water. Liusen chatted with them for a while and quietly asked the twins to keep an eye out for things that were worth researching so that they could start a new round of research at school. In a second-hand shop filled with rusty crucibles, loose telescopes with peeling paint, and old-fashioned cloaks, Ginny spotted her brother Percy with her sharp eyes. He was concentrating on reading an old book that was almost new. How supervisors gain power. From the back you can see the description on the cover. The 10 most suitable industries for supervisors after graduation, especially the last one. Shocking. Do you want to know which industry has the most promising future? You will never guess the second one. Ginny curled her lips. He stayed in the house all holiday. Isn't he just studying these things? It looks so boring. Go away, Percy said gruffly. Ginny made a face, pulled Liusen away and whispered, "My third brother Percy is ambitious. He has planned it all. He wants to be the Minister of Magic in the future." Liu-Sen took Ginny to buy all the items needed for school with ease, leaving only the last thing, the wand. Ginny didn't want to buy a wand at first. She thought the chopsticks made by Liusen were very useful. But Liusen advised her to take her first wand seriously. At least there should be a sense of ceremony. You can never go wrong buying your first master wand from Master Ollivander. But the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth are up to you. Liusen can do it. There's plenty of it. After some selection, you would. The core is Dragon Nerf, 14 inches long, very tough. This is a very powerful wand. Little girl, your future achievements are immeasurable. Ollivander was a little confused because these words were not said by him. Mr. Liusen, your introduction is very accurate. Very good. But, I think you interrupted me, he said to Liusen with a smile. His eyes full of joy. Liusen chuckled and was about to touch Ginny's head, but she dodged him swiftly. He had to retract his hand in midair. I hope you don't mind, Master Ollivander, but I still have a key sentence for you. Ollivander's eyes lit up. Oh, of course. Ahem. Little girl, remember, it is the wand that chooses its master, not the master who chooses the wand. Liu-Sen discussed with the master about the making of the magic wand and took out his own humble work and asked the other party to give some professional comments. Ollivander's mouth twitched when he saw the bunch of chopstick-shaped wands. How could someone make such a large number of spare wands for himself? It was ridiculous. Aren't you afraid that the wands would get upset? However, he was also somewhat relieved. Although Liusen's craftsmanship needed to be improved, there were still many aspects that were remarkable. Ollivander checked the Thunderbolt wand again and was surprised to find that it was more spiritual than before. The unique sealing chain Zyogin inside made the master marvel. After leaving the wand shop, the two bought some delicious snacks and ate while walking towards Flourish and Blot's bookstore. From a distance, the two were surprised to find that there was a long queue in front of the bookstore. A banner was hung outside the bookstore. Gilderoy Lockhart's autobiography The Magic Me is on sale. Only today from 12:30 to 4:30. Most of those in the queue were witches, and they were all about Mrs. Weasley's age. Liusen couldn't help but laugh secretly. It turns out that Lockhart is a friend of women. The two squeezed through the crowded crowd and saw Mrs. Weasley and Hermione at the front of the line. They were each holding a pile of books and nervously adjusting their hair and clothes. At the front table was Lockhart himself, dressed in a robe as blue as a forget-me-not. He looked up at his fans enthusiastically every time he signed a book. His flawless smile is exactly the same as the one in the self-eyes with a circle on his head, showing all his sparkling white teeth, and he blinks from time to time to flirt with his fans. Liusen, I can't understand it, but I'm shocked. Chapter 108. Wizards also like to swing their fists. Liusen patted Ginny quietly and asked in a low voice, do you think Lockhart is handsome? Ginny rolled her eyes at Liusen. Handsome? Much more handsome than you. But her eyes unconsciously drifted towards Liusen, and a blush quietly appeared on her face. At this time, a guy with a rude tone squeezed to the front of the crowd and shouted, make way. This is for the Daily Prophet. As he spoke, he used his magic camera to take several close-up photos of Lockhart. Every time he took a photo, a blinding flash of light came out from the top of the camera, and purple choking smoke came out. He kept adjusting the angle and even stepped on Ron's foot, causing Ron to say in dissatisfaction, that's amazing. Lockhart noticed this scene, but soon he looked to Ron's side with wide eyes, because he actually saw Harry Potter. Then he was delighted again. Liusen was also there. He had been paying attention to this mysterious young master of the galaxy group for a long time. He quickly pulled Harry to his side, then used his other hand to pull Liusen, but failed. Liusen's strength was beyond his expectations. He tried again with all his strength, but his face turned red and there was no reaction at all. Liusen had no good feelings towards this big liar, so he would not let him take advantage of the popularity. Moreover, Lockhart took people to take pictures without even asking, which was too self-righteous. Sorry, I have something to do and cannot take a photo with you, Liusen said with a smile, and then asked Ginny to step aside. Lockhart quickly resolved the awkwardness with a smile. He no longer insisted, and hurriedly pulled Harry over, allowing the photographer to take pictures of them both. Smile brighter, Harry. We are going to be on the front page. After letting go of the confused Harry, Lockhart stuffed a stack of autobiographies into his hand and said loudly in front of everyone, ladies and gentlemen, this is truly an extraordinary moment. Our savior, Harry Potter, has come all the way to buy my new book. I decided to give him a complete set of my signed works for free. Amid the noise, Harry struggled to hold the heavy book and squeezed out of the crowd, walking towards Ginny and Liu Sen. At this time, Malfoy, who was on the second floor, ran down. He was reading a book upstairs. After hearing Harry's name, he lowered his head and witnessed the photo-taking scene. "You must like this very much. You can attract attention wherever you go. Buying a book can make the headlines. Right, Potter." Ginny was nearby, and seeing this, she said, "Go away. He doesn't like this, Potter. You got a girlfriend." Malfoy drawled. Ginny frowned and clenched her fists tightly, thinking that the guy in front of her was so annoying. Liu Sen walked out from behind the bookshelf, reached out to stop the angry Ginny, and pulled her behind him. "What do you mean, Malfoy?" Malfoy was immediately shocked. He said quickly, "Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I was just kidding. I didn't know she was your girlfriend. I'm leaving now." Liu Sen did not deny it, but just looked at the other person with a teasing look. Ginny, who was standing behind him, blushed when she heard Malfoy say that. She stood there in a daze, her mind going blank. "Come on, don't leave in a hurry. I'm looking for you." After saying that, Liu Sen put his arm around Malfoy's shoulders, and regardless of his increasingly paler face, he took him to the depths of the quiet and deserted bookshelf on the second floor. Ron and Hermione were running with a stack of books in their hands and happened to see this scene. Ron hurriedly stuffed the book into his sister's hands and followed worriedly. When Ron approached Liu Sen and Malfoy, he heard their conversation in hushed voices. "I can't come up with that much money all at once. I haven't received my pocket money for next semester yet, and I only have less than 10 gold galleons now. How can you be the only son of the Malfoy family and have no money? You are not going to default on your debt, are you?" "No, no, no. How dare I?" "Oh, right. I copied a catalog of my family's collection of rare books. Bring it to me and see." I didn't bring it with me." "Then what the hell are you talking about? Are you looking for a fight?" Malfoy was so scared that he raised his arms and closed his eyes, not daring to look at Liu Sen. Ron chuckled, and Malfoy became furious when he saw that this man, whom he had looked down upon before, was laughing at him. But at this moment, a quarrel broke out downstairs. The three of them leaned over the stair railing and looked down. The two parties in the quarrel were Lucius Malfoy and Mr. Weasley. "My dear, you have been very busy with official duties recently. So many searches. I wonder if they paid you overtime." "Don't worry about that. Just take care of yourself." Lucius picked up a copy of Walking with Female Ghosts that Ginny was holding. "TSK. This book was not cheap for you in the past, but now, I heard that you got lucky. You dug up a large piece of gold. Could it be that you got it by accepting bribes? Be careful or I will report you for the unknown source of your wealth. Every penny I earn is clean. Unlike some people who live on inheritance from their ancestors." Lucius sneered. "What's wrong with having money? It's better than some corrupt pureblood families that have to sell their daughters to climb up the social ladder." Ginny immediately got angry and threw the pile of books in her hand at Lucius' face. Mr. Weasley also grabbed the other person's collar in anger and pressed him hard on the bookshelf. A pile of heavy books fell on the two men's heads, but they remained unmoved and started wrestling with each other. When Draco Malfoy saw his father fighting, he wanted to go over to help, but was stopped by Ron, and the two of them also started fighting. Seeing that Ron had the upper hand, Liu Sen hurried over and pulled the furious Ginny to his side. The Weasley twins yelled, "Beat him, Dad." Mrs. Weasley said worriedly, "Don't do this, Arthur, don't do this." The crowd retreated in panic, knocking down more bookshelves. No one paid any attention to the clerk's helpless cries. Everyone was just watching the fun. Lockhart looked over and excitedly asked the photographer if he could take a picture of the book lovers arguing over the queue. Fortunately, after a while, the tall and burly Hagrid came over. He shouted in a deep and loud voice, "Stop fighting. Stop it." After saying that, he pulled the two people apart effortless. Lucius' eyes were bruised, and he was still holding the book Walking with a Female Ghost. He stuffed the book into Ginny's hands, his eyes flashing with ill intent. "Take your book. Treasure it. This should be the first new book you have read since you were a child. He broke free from Hagrid's hand and turned away. Draco Malfoy also escaped from Ron's fist at this time and followed his father with a bruised face. You shouldn't pay attention to him, Arthur. Hagrid reached out and patted the dust off Mr. Weasley, shaking him from side to side. This whole family is rotten. They're all like that. Don't listen to a word they say. They picked up their books and walked out of the bookstore. The clerk wanted to stop them, but after taking one look at Hagrid's size, he didn't dare say a word. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109. The diary is intercepted. Liu Sen originally wanted to go back to the company, but after the commotion at Bloomingdale's bookstore, he suddenly remembered that this seemed to be a very critical time point, so Liu Sen enthusiastically stuffed everything everyone had purchased into his backpack except for Hermione, who was going home to spend the last few days of the holiday with her parents. She said goodbye to everyone with a pile of books. Ron and Harry suddenly felt depressed after returning to the burrow. Liu Sen drew out the thunder wand and cast a ray of healing light on Mr. Weasley. The effect was excellent, and in the blink of an eye, the small wounds and bruises on his face disappeared without a trace. The Weasleys, who had never seen Liu Sen's lighting magic, exclaimed immediately. After her brother's explanation, Ginny also understood the power of this special use of lighting magic, and her eyes could not help but sparkle with little stars. Oh, by the way, Liu Sen, can you cure Errol? Ginny asked expectantly. Errol is the Weasley family's owl, and Liu Sen noticed it on his first day here. At that time, Harry was slow to reply to the message, so Ron asked Errol to deliver a letter to Harry. When the letter came back, the poor guy bumped his head against the glass window. It was old, confused and extremely weak. Ginny took the poor owl and placed it carefully on the table. Elrond slumped over the table like a dead branch, barely able to raise his head. Ron shook his head and said, "It's dying. When I was feeding it yesterday, it fell off the bird stand." Sigh. Ginny pursed her lips, her eyes a little moist. After all, she was the messenger who had been with the family for many years. Don't be too sad. Let me try to see if I can treat it first. After saying that, Liu Sen lit up his wand again and cast the illumination spell, healing light over Errol. After a while, the owl regained some spirit, but its call was still weak. Fred advised, "Ginny, it's already very tired. It has been delivering letters for our family for a lifetime." George also said, "Yes, if it is gone, it must have gone to another world and is flying freely. So, don't be too sad." Ginny nodded and sighed. "I see. I just think that their lifespans are so short." Looking at the little girl's tearful face, Liu Sen suddenly felt a little bit sorry for her and wondered whether he should buy her a new pet in advance. But at this moment, he suddenly remembered that the bottles and jars in his safe had not been tested yet. He carefully held up Errol and said softly to Ginny, "I have treated Scabbers before. Let me try to treat Errol as well." At night, Liu Sen brought Errol into the small villa inside the door, opened the safe and started searching. "Well, I don't know which one was successfully transformed into the elixir of life. How about have some of both?" He picked out a few bottles at random, poured out a few drops of each, and mixed them together. Looking at the strangely colored mixed drink in the test tube, Liu Sen had no idea what its effect would be. Errol, life and death are determined by fate. Wealth and honor are determined by God. Cheers. After saying that, he opened the bird's beak and poured the liquid in the test tube into the poor owl. Looking at Errol, who hadn't changed much, Liu Sen shook his head, took out his notebook, and began to organize his records. 1992.8.19 Wednesday, experimental formula for elixir of life, Coke, orange juice, mineral water. and Erguo Tau mixed and fed to Errol, but no reaction point while writing. Liusen blinked and almost forgot about the important matter. He quickly walked out of the villa and opened his backpack. The new book was gone. Ron. I was just thinking about dividing everyone's books. Why are they gone? Oh, Ginny wanted to read the magic book, so I took it out for her. I also divided everyone's books at the same time. Sen nodded, turned and went straight to Ginny's room. Ginny, is there anything in the newly bought books? Liusen's eyes suddenly froze when he was halfway through his words, because Ginny was about to write on a yellowed notebook. Ah, you looking for this? TSK, it's not fun at all. I'll give it back to you. Liusen took it. It was a small and thin black notebook. The cover was tattered, and the word 1942 was faintly printed on it, which meant it was 50 years ago. Opening the notebook, a name was written in black ink on the first page. Tom Marvolo Riddle. That's it. Voldemort's diary. That's it. Were you writing just now? Liusen asked worriedly. Well, I found it stuck in a book and wanted to throw it away, but I felt it calling me, so I wrote to RU. I didn't expect it to be as intelligent as Little Fox. Liusen was startled and asked solemnly, then what? Did it say anything? Ginny pouted. It said its name is Tom Marvolo Riddle, and it wants to make friends with me. I don't have time for it. Isn't it more fun to chat with Little Beaver? It's dirty. It's so ugly, haha. Right. This notebook is torn, old, and clumsy. How can it compare with Little Fox? That was taught by our Ginny herself. After coaxing Ginny for a few words, Liusen left her boudoir and took the notebook back to his room. I flipped back and found that it was blank, without a single word. Only on the back of the cover were printed Vauxhall Road, London, and the name of a newsagent. It looked quite inconspicuous, just a shabby old diary board from a Muggle Street. But Liusen knew how terrible this thing was. When Voldemort was a teenager, he killed his classmates to split his soul, and sealed the soul fragments in this diary. It was made into an evil Horcrux. In the original plot, Lucius put the diary among Ginny's old books during the chaos. After Ginny found out, she treated the diary as a good friend with whom she could talk about anything. In the end, she was controlled by the dark power in the diary, opened the Chamber of Secrets, and caused terrible consequences. However, under Liusen's butterfly effect, the Weasley family was no longer in financial difficulty, and Ginny lived a life of luxury. She had no interest in this dirty second-hand diary, and with her own net friend and the company of the artificial intelligence Little Fox who had been raised from scratch, Ginny became much more cheerful and had no desire to talk at all. Therefore, it is impossible for the diary to corrode Ginny's mind step by step as it originally did. Liusen thought for a moment, then smiled kindly, eerily. Slowly opened his diary and wrote, Liusen, hello, my name is Draco Malfoy. Soon, the line of words seemed to seep into the notebook and disappeared in the blink of an eye, and then new words appeared on the notebook. Notebook, I thought you were scared of me. Liusen, how come? A notebook that can write and think by itself. That's cool. Notebook, thank you. You can tell me any problems you encounter in the future. I will give you advice, help you keep secrets, help you solve your problems. We can become friends who can talk about anything. Liusen sneered and thought to himself, I don't believe you. You are such a bad old note taker. Then he continued writing calmly. Really? That's great. I have some academic questions, but I don't know who to talk to. Notebook, hahaha. Just ask. I can help you answer. Liusen rubbed his hands and smiled. I don't know what your level is. Let me give you a simple arithmetic problem to test you. Please see the question. A water reservoir has 2 water inlet pipes A and B, and 1 outlet pipe C. Opening pipe A alone for 6 hours can fill the pool. Open pipe B alone for 8 hours and fill it with water. Opening pipe C alone for 9 hours can drain a full pool of water. If you open AB at the same time for 2 hours first, then open C. Q. How many hours does it take to fill the pool after opening the C tube? Notebook. No, wait a minute. Why do you need to drain water while draining it? What's the point? What's the problem? Liusen chuckled. This is a classic drainage problem that even Chinese middle school students can solve. But for the magic world, whose logical reasoning ability and math level are generally low, this is a difficult problem to understand. LIUSEN. Okay, you solve it first, and give me the answer tomorrow. Oh, by the way, my family is very disgusted with magical items with self-awareness. To be on the safe side, let's set a code. Next time I write, Heavenly King covering Earth Tiger, you should reply, Pagoda suppressing River Monster. If our codes don't match, don't talk. Remember? Answer the questions well. I'm leaving the closed notebook. *%#. What a mess. Chapter 110 An Unexpected Visit. The next morning, Liusen was awakened by the sound of birds singing. He opened his eyes in a daze, only to see a fist-sized bird circling above his head in the air. Where did the bird come from? Didn't I close the window last night? When the bird saw Liusen wake up, it happily landed on his head, as if it had used his hair as a bird's nest. Liusen picked up the bird, held it in his hand, and looked at it, and immediately felt a sense of familiarity. A big head, a flat face, grey feathers. Could this be Errol? Liusen jumped off the bed with a start, and ran to the table. In a few steps the cushion on the table, where Errol was lying dying last night, was now empty. Errol, the little owl, ignored Liusen's call, as if it didn't hear it at all. Hiss. No. You must be Errol. He found Ron with the little owl, and Ron fell in love with the little guy at first sight. Wow. So cute. And it looks exactly like Errol did when he was a kid. Where did you get it? Ron tried to pet the bird, but was nearly pecked. Liusen became even more confused. It seemed like he had lost his memory. When the Weasleys learned that Liusen had bought a new owl, they all gathered around with curiosity. Everyone agreed that Liusen bought an owl of the same species in order to appease Ginny. Liusen didn't explain, and just agreed with everyone's speculation. Even in the magic world, it is difficult to restore animals to their cubs. Shrinkage potion and age potion can only change the appearance. Apart from some rare black magic, the only thing that can do this is the Philosopher's Stone. Liusen couldn't conduct further experiments at Ron's house, so he had to put the matter aside for the time being, and leave it for later study. In the blink of an eye, it is September 9th and the day to go back to school has arrived. The children started packing their luggage early in the morning. When they were about to leave, they kept running up and down the stairs. Percy said he forgot to bring his supervisor badge, and the twins said they forgot to bring the felony fireworks. When Liusen was about to follow everyone into the car, suddenly a strange cat head circled down and threw a letter to Liusen with his name written on it. Liusen pinched it, and there seemed to be something hard inside the envelope. Wait a minute. I got a letter. When I opened it, I saw it was written by Dumbledore. Don't tell anyone. I have a good friend who wants to see you. If you agree, hold the spoon tightly at 9:30. He put his eyes into the envelope and found a spoon inside. He was sure that this spoon was the one he had taken from the Hogwarts dining table, because there was the school emblem on it. Liusen glanced at the time. 9 hours, 29 minutes and 48 seconds. Damn. This doesn't even give him time to think. Comrades, I have some urgent matters to attend to. I'm afraid I have to leave first. See you at school. Liusen waved to everyone. Oh, by the way, Ron, remember to be invisible. Be careful. Before he could finish his words, an inexplicable suction force suddenly appeared on the spoon in his hand, and Liusen disappeared from the spot in an instant. Ginny screamed and said anxiously, Mom, why is Liusen missing? Mr. Weasley looked puzzled. It looks like a portkey. But, don't worry, kids. Didn't Liusen say that he had something urgent to do? Don't you still believe in his ability? As for Liusen, he only felt that he was being pulled by a force stronger than the flu powder, and was being pulled into a long thin noodle while spinning all the way. After the world spun around, he arrived at a deserted alley. Liusen took a few seconds to stand firm. After overcoming the dizziness, he stumbled out of the alley and came to a bluestone street. Where is this? Turning his head, he saw a spire in the distance on the road. It was the Eiffel Tower, France. Paris. How did Dumbledore bring me here? After strolling for a while on the busy streets and experiencing the customs and culture of France, Liusen took out the letter again, hoping to find some clues. As a result, the short letter had changed. The words disappeared and turned into an ink hand with its finger pointing in a direction. Liusen smiled knowingly. Leo Deng understood the treasure hunt game. He stopped along the way, looking at the sycamore trees, smelling the tulips, and listening to the charming French accents of passers-by. I have to say, the French really know how to live. Everyone is well dressed, every house is decorated with flowers, and every walk you can see passionate couples showing their love on the street. The romantic index is amazing. Besides, it was still 1992, and France had not yet been occupied by a large number of Mexicans. The gangsters and thieves on the streets were not as rampant as they are in later generations. It was still a good place worth visiting. After reaching the location indicated by the arrow, Liusen stopped and stood there in confusion. This was an old alley that was not very busy, and where he stood was at the intersection of the alley. I looked left and right, but found nothing. I felt carefully and didn't hear any magical fluctuations. Liusen scratched his head, not knowing where to go next. He took out the letter again and found that there was another change. This time there was an extra sentence on the letter paper. He took the note. Liusen narrowed his eyes and looked into the envelope and actually found a small finger-sized note with an address on it. Liusen had just said this silently in his mind when suddenly the intersection next to him began to deform. To be exact, a house grew out of the gap and pushed the house next to it to the side. The amazing thing is that neither the people passing by nor the cat on the fence noticed anything. Liusen smiled. Loyalty spell. Old Deng really used this spell. This magical spell has an incredible confidentiality effect, and the house protected by this magic will disappear from everyone's sight unless the protected person or the secret keeper tells you the location. No one can find the house. Even banging your nose on the glass window won't work. Liusen had roughly guessed who the owner of the house was. With excitement and nervousness, he took a few steps forward and knocked on the door. The door opened automatically. Liusen hesitated for a moment and called out politely, "Hello. Can I come in?" After a few seconds, there was still no response, so Liusen plucked up the courage to walk in. The furnishings in the house are very retro, almost all made of wood, and the space is not very large. There is a small kitchen as soon as you enter the door, but it looks like no cooking has been done there in a long time. The seasoning jars are all empty, and there is no food to be seen. On the long wooden table were placed various experimental glassware. Unlike modern products, which were not pure and transparent, they had obvious yellow-green hues and looked very old at first glance. Further in, there is a desk and 2 sofas, and there are many books in the cabinets next to them. At this moment, Liusen suddenly heard a panting sound. He looked up suddenly and saw a figure walking down the stairs leading to the second floor. Liusen was so scared that he jumped back a step, his hair standing on end. Because this man was really creepy. He was wearing a plain white linen robe and his hair was completely silver. The most important thing was his face. Although it was full of wrinkles, there was no age spot at all. It even had a plump and delicate feeling. He looked like an old monster. But the next second he recognized who it was: the owner of the Philosopher's Stone, the great alchemist, Nicholas Flamel. Chapter 111 Nicholas Flamel Online Teaching. Seeing Liusen's stunned look, the other party was not angry at all, but said kindly, "I'm sorry, kid. I didn't scare you, did I?" "Oh. How could that be? I should be the one to apologize. I saw the door was open, so I walked in," Liusen said hurriedly. The person in front of him was a 666-year-old living antique. The only person in the world who made the Philosopher's Stone. Nicholas Flamel cast a curious look at him. "Oh, welcome, kid. Albus told me about you. By the way, I haven't introduced myself formally yet. My name is Nicholas Flamel." After saying that, he extended a pale and dry hand to Liusen. Liusen quickly shook it. "My name is Liusen. It's an honor to meet you." There was a crisp sound, and the other party immediately withdrew his hand in pain. "Ah, sorry. Did I use too much force? But Liusen was very sure that he didn't use any force at all. Nicholas Flamel didn't care. As if he was used to it. He walked steadily to the sofa and slowly sat on it. All his movements were very slow, as if he was made of glass. You know, that's what happens when people get old. They become fragile. Sometimes immortality is a pain. Liu-Sen felt that the way the other person looked at him was very strange. A mixture of love, curiosity and confusion, which made him feel a little uncomfortable. You created the Philosopher's Stone. Why don't you use its vast magical power to restore your youth? He hesitated for a moment and said, my child, the Philosopher's Stone is not always so beautiful. You must know that everything has a price. For example, my wife Perenelle and I have gained eternal life, but we cannot stop aging. What you gain with the Philosopher's Stone, you will lose something else precious. Liu-Sen frowned and thought hard. So, I can only choose one between immortality and immortality. That's right, but if I choose not to age, isn't that the same as eternal life? Nicholas Flamel chuckled and shook his head. No, if you choose immortality, then the person who takes the potion will remain young forever, but his lifespan will not be increased. When his lifespan ends, the aging that was delayed by the potion will come as expected. Liu-Sen was uncertain, so this is an equal exchange. Sometimes it's worse, like losing interest in food or something. Under the effect of the drug of immortality, we don't need to eat, and won't get hungry. He raised his hand and pointed to the kitchen. We haven't cooked in almost 100 years. Liu-Sen looked at his hands nervously. I came into contact with the magic power in the Philosopher's Stone 2 months ago, and I absorbed some of it. Nicholas Flamel nodded in understanding. I felt it from the moment you appeared in France. You have a huge amount of Philosopher's Stone energy in your body. It's incredible. Now you are almost a walking Philosopher's Stone. He patted Liu-Sen's shoulder gently, his movement so gentle that it seemed as if he was patting a kitten's head. But don't worry, you're not absorbing magic power for the sake of gaining anything, so there won't be any problems. Tell me in detail what happened that day. Liu-Sen breathed a sigh of relief, and after recalling the past, he recounted the entire story of how Voldemort activated the Philosopher's Stone to gain enormous vitality, how he competed with him for energy, and finally how he killed the other party. It's amazing. You did a great job. I didn't expect there was someone in the world who could absorb so much magic power. Liu-Sen remembered something and asked in confusion, why is there so much magic power in the Philosopher's Stone? It seems to be inexhaustible. The other party showed an admiring look. You observed very carefully. Most people think that the Philosopher's Stone stores a huge amount of magic power, but in fact, its magic power comes from another latitude. Liu-Sen's eyes widened immediately. Different dimensions? Multiverse? This word is very novel. You can say that. Hundreds of years ago, when I was doing an experiment, I discovered that latitude by chance. After decades of research, I finally created a tool to communicate with that side. The Philosopher's Stone. That is a kind of primitive magic. It represents both order and destruction, which is very scary. With the Philosopher's Stone as a link, this magic was extracted. Later, I gradually discovered how to use it. That is, if you pay a certain price, you will get some benefits. If it is an equal exchange, why don't you lose anything when you convert the gold? Liu-Sen no longer concealed the fact that he had converted a huge amount of gold. Nicholas Flamel smiled. Use your little brain and think about what you have not lost. I converted iron into gold, so I gained gold and lost iron? Isn't this equivalent? Wait, maybe in another latitude, iron is more valuable than gold. Who knows? I still don't fully understand this kind of exchange relationship, but most of the time, the Philosopher's Stone is still very useful. By the way, I did an experiment yesterday. An owl that was about to die of old age was transformed into a young bird by the elixir of life I made, but it lost its memory. Nicholas Flamel nodded. A new life is gained, but a lifetime of memories is lost. Fair enough. You see, this is the rule for using the Philosopher's Stone. The to discuss it further, and LIUSEN gained a new understanding of the side effects of the Philosopher's Stone. Nicholas Flamel created an elixir that grants immortality, but at the cost of physical weakness, irreversible aging, and the loss of the desire to eat. To be honest, when Albus suggested that we destroy the Philosopher's Stone, we completely agreed. After more than 600 years, this world has lost our interest. The more elixirs we take, the more we will lose. I have a feeling that if we continue, we will be driven crazy little by little. Can you imagine what will happen to a person who has lost the novelty of the world and all the good feelings? Liu-Sen swallowed his saliva. It was indeed terrifying. Albus is very worried about you and asked me to talk to you. However, I think he can rest assured. I can see that you are a good child. It doesn't matter if the power of the Philosopher's Stone is in your hands. But remember, when making a choice, don't just think about the good aspects. You must first consider whether the bad aspects are acceptable. What's the Chinese saying? Think twice before you act. This power is extraordinary and must not fall into the hands of people with bad intentions. Liu-Sen nodded solemnly. I promise you that I will never abuse that magic power. Make sure to use it carefully, Nicholas. Flamel nodded with relief. Oh, by the way, is little Liu Tao okay? Liu-Sen, little guy. You are right. Nicholas Flamel opened a secret compartment in the wall and the Philosopher's Stone lay inside. However, he did not touch the Philosopher's Stone. Instead, he took out a photo album, or an address book, with a phoenix painted on the cover. This is the original member directory of the Order of the Phoenix. At that time, in order to deal with some dangerous dark wizards, a group of like-minded people gathered together. Your great-grandfather Liu Tao was one of them. Liu-Sen saw the page about his great-grandfather. There was a magic photo on it. If emergency contact was needed, the person in the photo would quickly run to the photo frame on the other side and notify the real person. After putting down the photo album, Nicholas Flamel stood up and took him to the side room next to the kitchen in a trot-like manner. The short distance made the old man pant for a while. There was a round crystal ball, and under the control of Nicholas Flamel, the picture gradually appeared. First, a speeding car crashes into the Homping Willow, and then there are daily scenes on campus. In the heavy fog, many horrible things flash by, all of which are things that are about to happen in the future. Nicholas Flamel looked very tired after making the crystal ball display these prophetic images. After asking Liu-Sen to be more careful, he also patiently discussed some of his experiences in prophecy with Liu-Sen. Liu-Sen took out several small inventions and asked the alchemy master to comment on them, including Weasley's magic hair comb, the modified pistol, the magic phone. Nicholas Flamel was all smiles, and after giving suggestions and compliments, he happily expressed that he had more expectations for this world. The two chatted again about their views on the direction of the magical world. Liu-Sen talked about all kinds of magical fantasies, such as interstellar travel, cyber immortality, magical technological civilization, etc. The old man's eyes lit up. After listening. The other party is indeed a great alchemist who has lived for more than 600 years. He is simply a walking library, a mobile experience pack. Just a few words can make Liu-Sen suddenly enlightened. He immediately took out his little notebook and wrote down several pages. They chatted until the afternoon. Seeing that Nicholas Flamel was getting more and more tired, Liu-Sen quickly said goodbye and thanked him from the bottom of his heart for his teaching. Chapter 112, Night Tour of the Forbidden Forest. After bidding farewell to Nicholas Flamel, Liu-Sen turned around and burned the note with the address. The Fidelius charm took effect instantly, and the house at the intersection disappeared in the blink of an eye. Taking this opportunity, Liu-Sen felt it carefully and felt a mysterious magic flash by, and then the relevant information about Nicholas Flamel's address in the world was erased. It's as if the existence of the building has been eliminated from the route. When Liu-Sen tried to recall the address again, he couldn't remember it at all. If I force myself to recall, I will even feel confused. Where am I? Who am I? What am I doing? Amazing. It's indeed a high-end protective magic. Putting This matter aside, Liu found a roadside bench and sat down, taking out his scientific research notes to sort out what he had learned from the conversation. The opportunity to communicate face to face with the legendary alchemist Nicholas Flamel's a rare opportunity, and Liu gained a lot of knowledge from this trip. He wrote quickly, oblivious to the people around him, and then he wrote down his vision for the future and his plan to explore the universe. Just to organize his thoughts, it was not until night fell that Liu stretched and stood up. Only then he noticed that it was getting late. He opened the envelope and took out the letter again, but there was no new content on it. Then, I'll just take a stroll first. It's not easy to come to Paris, so you have to buy some souvenirs, right? The French are particularly particular about their lifestyle. Although it is just time to get off work, the restaurants and bars on the street are already crowded with people. These Europeans don't have any unspoken rules of 996, and bosses dare not ask employees to work overtime once the workday is over. Even if the king or the emperor comes, we have to wait until tomorrow. At that time, the euro had not yet become popular, and due to the influence of the international situation, the exchange rate of the pound was volatile. Liu took some time to exchange the pounds in his bag for some francs. Then he bought some unique things as souvenirs in the cake shop and gift shop. Just when he was about to find a restaurant to try French cuisine, he suddenly felt a warm feeling in his pocket. Liu took it out and saw that it was the spoon. In the dim light of the street lamp, he saw the reflection of an eye appear in the spoon and wink at him. It was Dumbledore. He recognized the other person's distinctive half-moon glasses at a glance. He quickly took out the letter, and sure enough, a new time appeared on it. After entering an empty alley, Liu tightly grasped the spoon and silently counted down in his heart. When the last second came, a force of attraction appeared on the spoon. On time, there was another round of twisting and teleportation. This time when landing, Liu remembered. He exerted force on his feet in advance, started to take steps in midair, and then landed gently on the ground. When he looked up, he saw a dense forest. The familiar eerie feeling instantly hit him, and he realized where he was. The Forbidden Forest. Huh? Why am I in the Forbidden Forest? The key to this door is a little off. Liu Sen was quite familiar with this place. Although he had only been here once, he almost hacked Liu to death last time he was here. Fluorescent. Shining. Show me the way. The Thunder Wand emitted a soft white light, and under Liu-Sen's precise and clever control skills, a lighting ball flew out that could show the way. Liu-Sen was about to move forward when he sensed a familiar and friendly breath. Xiaobei? Is that you? Liu-Sen shouted towards the darkness behind him. Soon he heard the sound of light horse hooves, and under the cover of towering trees, a sacred white figure approached quickly like an elf. Seeing this silver white figure, Liu-Sen shouted happily, Xiaobei. Long time no see, Xiaobei. Chirped happily, ran to Liu-Sen, then lowered his head and rubbed against him affectionately. When Liu-Sen was rescuing the other party before, by chance, the magic power in his body resonated with the power of the unicorn, allowing the two to have a telepathic connection and know each other's thoughts. You ask me why I didn't come to see you? Because I was on vacation. Every year of school, I have a 2-month vacation. Didn't I come to see you right after school started? What do you smell? Oh, there is indeed something delicious in my bag. You have a great nose. It's as good as a puppy's. As he spoke, Liu-Sen smiled and shook his head, then took out a few fragrant French breads from his backpack. Xiaobei opened his mouth wide and ate the bread in a few bites. After eating, he shook his hair happily on the spot. Liu-Sen helped it comb its mane a few times and took the opportunity to pluck a handful of good-looking mane and tail hair, saving them for use as a magic wand. Xiaobei happily invited Liu-Sen to ride on his back. Not everyone can have such a treatment. Unicorns are the most proud and pure. They have always kept their distance from humans. It is very rare to even approach them actively, let alone ride them. There is also a legend that only kind and pure virgins can be lucky enough to touch a unicorn, but Liu-Sen is different. When he was treating the unicorns, the healing light and Xiaobei's holy white light resonated and complemented each other. So in the eyes of the unicorns, Liusen has taken on an aura similar to Th's. Xiaobei, where are you taking me? Liusen, who was riding on the back of a unicorn, asked curiously, but Xiaobei kept it a secret, and only said that he wanted to give him a gift. Liusen was quite nervous when he first rode on the unicorn's back, but after running for a while, he liked the feeling. It doesn't feel bumpy at all on the unicorn's back, and the view is great and the air is fresh. Not bad. I can come and play with Xiaobei more often in the future. Xiaobei carried him deep into the forbidden forest and stopped under a huge tree with lush branches and leaves. Liusen jumped back to the ground and dug underground under Xiaobei's guidance. It's so mysterious. Is there any treasure? After a while, Liusen dug out something from under the soil. It was crystal clear and had a beautiful glimmer. Looking at the familiar spiral pattern on it, Liusen tilted his head and asked uncertainly, Xiaobei, this can't be your horn. Xiaobei, hey, you got it right. I took them off. I'm giving them to you. Liusen took a deep breath, took out his magic wand, and fired a floating spell lightning chain at the ground. The soil began to float upwards, revealing something buried underground! 1, 2, 3, 6. Why so many horns? You said that you started growing horns when you were 3, and then changed them every year? You even changed them? No wonder. Liu-Sen thought of a detail. The unicorn horns in the magic materials store were not expensive, and were not even as valuable as their tail hair. Now he understood that unicorns, like cicada, would change their horns every year. However, the horns in the soil are much better than those in the store. It is estimated that the horns in the market are many years old. When they are accidentally dug out, there is very little magic left. That is why they have become a worthless magic material. The ones in front of me are the ones Xiaobei has replaced in recent years. Some of the brightest ones are as beautiful as the ones Xiaobei has now, and they are full of rich magic. The quality is quite good. Thanks, Xiaobei. Your horns are really beautiful. I won't be polite. After giving the gift, Xiaobei took Liusen for another stroll. During the walk, Liusen vaguely heard the sound of a car horn, but he was riding his unicorn at full speed at that time and didn't take it to heart. Finally, Xiaobei sent him to the edge of the forbidden forest and held his clothes in his mouth reluctantly, as if saying, if you don't promise to come and play with me next time, I won't let go. After saying goodbye to the clingy Xiaobei, Liusen walked to Hagrid's house. It was not too late at this time, because there was an hour time difference between France and the UK. It had been dark for an hour over there, while the sun had just set here. So he and Xiaobei wandered around in the forbidden forest until just after the opening ceremony. Hagrid opened the door and welcomed Liusen in with some surprise. I was wondering why all of you missed the opening banquet this year. Liu-Sen didn't explain much, just saying that he was late because he had something to do. Later, from Hagrid's narration, we learned that Harry and Ron really drove a Ford sedan to school, and they even hit the Homping Willow. Liu-Sen shook his head helplessly, but fortunately both of them were safe. After harvesting a bag of rock cookies, Liu-Sen left a piece of French pastry for Hagrid and left in a hurry. A pile of broken branches of the Homping Willow are all excellent materials for magic wands. Chapter 130 90-039. It's not difficult to coax girls. It was already very late when he returned to the dormitory, but Liu-Sen was in a very good mood. This was a very fruitful day. First, he learned a lot of knowledge from Nicholas Flamel, and after coming back, he went on a night tour of the Forbidden Forest with Xiaobei and got the hair and horn of a unicorn. Then I picked up a bunch of Homping Willow branches for free. What a great profit. Unlike Liu-Sen, Harry and Ron looked like they had survived a disaster. As expected, when they were crossing platform 9 3/4, they were accidentally isolated outside the wall. Liu-Sen knew that this was Malfoy's house elf who was secretly making trouble and trying to prevent Harry from going to Hogwarts this year. However, the smart duo acted decisively and decided to drive to school. Moreover, in such a hurry, the two of them completely forgot Liu-Sen's instructions. and only remembered to turn on the cloaking device after they flew into the sky. The result was that the person made the headlines of the newspaper before he even arrived at school. The flying car was witnessed by at least 7 muggles, and the wizarding world was almost exposed. The furious Snape was the first to stop the two embarrassed people. Even though they had just fallen and hit the Homping Willow and were almost smashed into a pulp by the angry Homping Willow, Snape still criticized the two people. Of course, he was also afraid. The wizarding statute is no joke, and if you don't handle it right, you'll end up in Azkaban. Not to mention the stupidity of flying all the way to school in an illegally modified car, or smashing your head into the most aggressive tree in Hogwarts. Snape looked into Harry's green eyes and trembled with fear, but he could only use sharp words and harsh threats to teach the two a lesson. The two unlucky guys didn't get to eat, and Liu Sen took out French pastries at the right time and instantly received 2 good roommate cards. Neville actually grew taller during the holiday, and the baby fat on his face faded a lot again, looking more secure and reliable. After chatting, I found out that he did not relax during the holiday and has been exercising continuously without slacking off for a single day. Harry and Ron felt ashamed when they heard this. They hadn't exercised once during the holiday. Liu Sen, on the other hand, did not miss morning exercises even at the Burrow, and Ginny accompanied him in jogging and boxing. In addition to basic bodybuilding, boxing and radio gymnastics, the little girl also learned 2 sets of square dances with the goblins during the holidays. Speaking of Ginny, Liu Sen couldn't help but smile when asked. Only Neville attended the ceremony normally. He said that Ginny was very angry throughout the whole process, but as expected, she successfully joined Gryffindor. Liu Sen was startled and quickly took out the magic phone. He was horrified when he took a look at it. When he was at Nicholas Flamel's house, he had switched his cell phone to silent mode and later forgot to turn it on. Only then did he discover that there were dozens of missed calls and hundreds of unread messages, except for the 2 questions Harry asked him in the car and the questions sent by Hermione. They were all from Ginny. After sending the message, Ginny was indeed full of resentment. It was a very happy opening ceremony, and it was okay that Ron was not there, but you also disappeared. Liu Sen hurriedly apologized and said that he had prepared a gift for her and would give it to her tomorrow. However, Ginny showed amazing action. 1 minute later, she sent a message, "I'm in the common room. Bring me the gift." Liu Sen suddenly broke out in a sweat, and amid the puzzled looks of his roommates, he found an excuse to escape and slipped out. When they arrived at the common room, Ginny was already waiting on the sofa by the fireplace. She had obviously just washed up. Her hair was still a little wet, and she was wearing a red pajamas that I had never seen before, with a cute lion embroidered on it. Liu Sen sat down, coaxed her for a few words, then took out a box from his backpack and handed it over. Ginny's face turned slightly red, but she still pretended to be angry and opened the box carefully. Liu Sen moved closer and explained, "I had something urgent to deal with at the time, so I went to France. I brought you a gift." When I came back, Ginny was stunned, and she took out a stack of first grade spell winter vacation homework, People's Education Press edition. Liu Sen's eyes widened immediately. "You made a mistake. Try again." As he spoke, Guangsu stuffed the box back into his backpack and took out a box that looked very similar. Ginny bared her fangs and glared at Liu Sen fiercely, then opened the box again. This time she did not take the wrong one. Inside was a wide variety of snacks, cakes, chocolates, and a beautiful small model of the Eiffel Tower. HMPH. "Is that all you have? You missed my sorting ceremony." Although she said it harshly, her face was already a little red because many of the chocolates were heart-shaped, but Liu Sen really didn't mean it. After all, this is France, and the chocolates in the gift shop are either spherical or heart-shaped. I didn't think much about it when I bought it. Seeing that the little girl had calmed down a lot, Liu Sen took out another big gift from his pocket. "Dang dang dang. Look what this is." Ginny turned her head and her eyes widened immediately. Of course, a child from a magical family recognized what it was. A unicorn's horn. So beautiful. "Is it for me too?" The girl obviously had no resistance to the shiny things. She immediately held it in her hands her eyes full of love. So beautiful. Thank you. I like this. I like the snacks and chocolate too. Hehe. Ginny, who had calmed down, became well behaved again, holding the gift box and the unicorn horn and grinning happily. The blush on her face became more and more intense as she looked at Liu Sen blankly and could be vaguely recognized in the lounge, where there was only the dim light of the fire. Liu Sen smelled the fragrance of the other person's hair, which was as pleasant as the flowers in the garden of the burrow. Seeing the look in Ginny's eyes, Liu Sen felt inexplicably flustered. He grabbed Ginny's shoulders and turned her around. Go to bed. Tomorrow is the first day of school, so don't yawn all the time. Ginny turned around, glared at the other person, and stomped her feet in anger. Liu Sen shook his head, patted the little girl's head and coaxed her. Okay, leave a good impression on the teachers in the first week and study hard. If you perform well, I'll give you a surprise at the weekend. After hearing this, Ginny left with a pout and a face full of resentment, and walked down the stairs to the girls' dormitory, looking back every few steps. After returning to the dormitory, Liu Sen sorted out his things and suddenly remembered that there was someone he hadn't greeted today. He took out the black diary from the space inside the door, and after opening it, he saw the other party writing impatiently. Diary, I figured it out. This question is a little difficult, but it's not difficult for me. Liu Sen, the King of Heaven and the Tiger of Earth. Diary, really? Are you serious? Okay, the pagoda suppresses a river monster. That's it. Liu Sen, oh my. Your memory is really bad. I told you to check the code first. How come you forgot it in a blink of an eye? How can you use this memory as a diary? You should be thankful that you met me. If others knew that you had such a bad memory, they would have thrown you out long ago. Diary, then I should thank you. Chapter 114 Howling Letter. After chatting with the diary for a while, Liu Sen was about to say goodbye, but the diary obviously didn't talk enough, and it was finally opened by someone, and he hadn't used his personal charm to deceive the other party's trust yet. Liu Sen saw through his thoughts and just left him another question about chickens, rabbits, and crabs in the same cage, asking him to count them slowly for fun, and then resolutely closed the diary. At breakfast the next day, Liu Sen nodded to Dumbledore at the teacher's seat from a distance. If he hadn't arranged for him to meet Nicholas Flamel, he wouldn't have gained so much. Ginny squeezed Ron aside and sat next to Liu Sen, but she looked unhappy and kept hitting Liu Sen's thigh with her little pink fist under the table. Hermione sat opposite and said good morning to Harry and Ron without even looking up. Her tone was a little stiff, and it was obvious that she was very disappointed with the too special way of coming to school. They noticed that Hermione was concentrating on reading a book, Traveling with Vampires by Gilderoy Lockhart. When it was time to collect the mail, a flock of owls carrying packages and letters flew into the auditorium and dropped things of all sizes. Neville's package was the size of a school bag, and it contained all the things he had forgotten at home, which were sent by his grandmother after everyone had opened their letters. A tiny baby owl arrived late with a red envelope that was larger than its body. Liu Sen recognized him. This was Errol, who had been rejuvenated by him after learning about the side effects of the Philosopher's Stone from Nicholas Flamel. Liu Sen couldn't help but look at the little guy a few more times. Its situation was another kind of equivalent exchange. It gained a second life, but lost the memory of its past life. Just as he was thinking about it, the little guy fell too hard and the letter was too big, so he couldn't break in time, and fell into the potato chip plate. This scene was seen by many little wizards, and they all couldn't help laughing. However, everyone's attention was soon attracted by the letter sent by the little owl, because it was a special red letter. It's a howler letter. My grandma sent it to me once. I advise you to open it quickly, otherwise the consequences will be even more terrible. Neville stared at the letter and said with lingering fear, of course Ron also knew this thing, and he was very panicked at the moment. He picked up the letter with trembling hands and opened the envelope with a trembling hand, as if he was dismantling a bomb that was counting down. Liu Sen tilted his head, then covered his ears like Ginny did. Sure enough, the next moment the letter made a deafening shout. The loud noise filled the entire auditorium, shaking the dust off the ceiling. Ronald, how dare you secretly drive away the car? I won't be surprised if the school expel you. Just wait and see how I deal with you. Your father is now under investigation by the ministry. It's all your fault. We received Dumbledore's letter last night and we were almost ashamed to death. We worked so hard to raise you. We didn't expect you to do such a thing. You and Harry almost lost your lives. Even if I covered my ears, I could still hear the deafening sound clearly. The roar was definitely Mrs. Weasley's voice, but it was 100 times louder than usual. After scolding Ron, the voice of the howler suddenly became soft and gentle. It turned its head and said to Ginny, "Oh Ginny baby, congratulations on joining Gryffindor. Your father and I are proud of you." After saying that, he turned back to Ron, glared at him, and then shattered into pieces of paper. Ron was completely stunned. His face turned red like a tomato, and he huddled in his chair, trembling. Anyone would feel the same if their mother yelled at them in front of the whole school. It would be like a large-scale social death scene. Laughter and whispers began to break out from the crowd, but luckily they soon quieted down as the teachers handed out the class schedules. Liu Sen took the schedule handed over by Professor McGonagall. The first class was herbology, together with Badger College. Looking to the side, Ginny's schedule was a little different from their first year. Her first class was charms. After encouraging Ginny a few words, Liu Sen and his companions walked out of the castle and headed towards the greenhouse through the vegetable garden. Liu Sen noticed that the vegetables in the garden were growing well. It seemed that the slug repellent pesticide that Hagrid bought was effective. On the way, Hermione smiled at Harry and Ron again, as if she felt they had been punished enough. After turning a corner from the vegetable field, you will reach the greenhouse. But Liu Sen noticed movement in the direction of the Homping Willow. He turned his head and saw a plump lady waving a magic wand under the tree, controlling the cloth strips and ropes to heal the Homping Willow. Several people recognized at a glance that it was Professor Sprout who would teach them herbology later. Harry and Ron looked at each other and felt embarrassed. The Homping Willow was damaged by their car. Ron's flying Ford sedan broke down as he approached the school and crashed head-on into the Homping Willow. It certainly wasn't out of gas. Mr. Weasley never filled it up. Many of the Homping Willow's branches were broken immediately, and after it realized what was happening, it immediately started to beat the car violently in a rage. Fortunately, the car had self-awareness and escaped from danger, saving the two people. However, after escaping from the Homping Willow, he quit, left Harry and Ron behind, threw their luggage on the ground, and ran into the Forbidden Forest, and disappeared. Liu Sen watched Professor Sprout, who was treating the tree, with great interest. The other party obviously knew the secret of the tree. When he was tying the branches and trunk, the grumpy Homping Willow seemed to be petrified, and did not move. But at this moment, a wizard wearing a flowing turquoise robe and a gold-rimmed hat walked towards Professor Sprout. Hermione was the first to leave the other party. "Look. It's Professor Lockhart." He walked over and said something to Professor Sprout. Then, without waiting for the other party's consent, he drew his wand and cast a spell on the Homping Willow. As a result, the Homping Willow, which had been quiet, was suddenly awakened again, and its dancing branches began to whip towards the two of them. Liu Sen was really impressed. This idiot was the typical one who would drink less than half the bottle. Professor Sprout, who was close to the Homping Willow, was the first to be hit, and was blown away by the thick branches. Seeing that the situation was not good, Lockhart quickly retreated, and luckily avoided the attack. Liu Sen quickly drew talismans on his hand, slapped the two talismans of divine movement and light body on his body, and then ran over quickly. Professor Sprout was in a very miserable state. After being thrown away, he lay on the ground, his body covered in mud, and one of his arms was covered in blood. Liu Sen helped him up and checked him. He found that his arm was deeply cut by the Homping Willow, but fortunately the bone was not broken. Chapter 115 Mandrake. "Professor, please let me heal you, Professor." Sprout had heard Madame Pomfrey mention Liu Sen, so he didn't refuse with the attitude of "it's good to let students practice on me." But she underestimated the power of Liu Sen's lighting spell. Almost as soon as she was enveloped by the healing light, she felt a tingling and cool sensation on her arm, and then her arm recovered. Professor Sprout immediately praised Liu Sen and gave him 10 extra points. The two returned to the greenhouse, where the students were already waiting. Professor Sprout quickly adjusted his mood and prepared to start the class. Just then a voice came from behind everyone. When they turned around, it was Lockhart, who had just escaped. "Hello." Lockhart shouted to the students with a smile on his face. "I just showed Professor Sprout how to heal the Homping Willow. But I don't want you to think that I'm any better at her biology than she is. I just happened to see a few of these strange plants during my travels. Oh, by the way, Professor, are you okay? I have to say that your magic needs to be improved. I suggest you read my new book. It will definitely help you." Professor Sprout glanced at him angrily, turned around and shouted to the students, "Today's class is in the third greenhouse. Let's go, kids." Neville's favorite class was herbology. He whispered to Liu Sen, "Great. We were in the first greenhouse last year. I've always wanted to see the third greenhouse. But the plants there must be more dangerous." Liu Sen patted his shoulder and said, "Don't worry, you can fight the Malfoy trio alone now. What's there to be afraid of with just a magical plant?" Neville nodded sheepishly but expectantly. When everyone was walking towards warming shed number 3, Lockhart stopped Harry, greeted Professor Sprout, and said he wanted to talk to Harry. Liu Sen frowned, not knowing what this guy was up to. After a while, Harry came back with a frown on his face. This class required everyone to wear a pair of furry earmuffs. While the professor was explaining, Harry told Liu Sen and several friends what Lockhart had said. Lockhart actually thought that Harry drove to school in order to become famous and used his experience as a person to advise him not to rush to show off. This guy thought he had found a like-minded junior who was working hard for fame. Liu Sen and his friends could only remain silent. This was truly a strange thing. Hearing several people talking about Lockhart, Hermione suddenly wanted to defend her idol in disbelief and even missed the professor's questions. To everyone's surprise, the first person to raise his hand was the silent and timid Neville. Mandrake is also called mandrake root. It can be made into a powerful restorative agent. Neville was nervous at first, but as he immersed himself in his favorite field, his words became more fluent. Used to restore people who have been deformed or cursed to their original state. Very good. 10 points for Gryffindor. Professor Sprout said to Neville with satisfaction. Neville's face flushed immediately. He actually won 10 points for the academy. Mandra is an essential component of most antidotes, but it's also dangerous. Can anyone tell me why? But this time Miss Know-It-All reacted, raised her hand first, and gave the answer accurately. Hearing the cry of the mandrake can make people faint or even die. Absolutely. 10 points for Gryffindor. Professor Sprout then demonstrated how to repot a young mandrake in a flower pot. After putting on earmuffs, everyone started to compete with the little guys in the flower pots. The leaves of these seedlings were purple with green, and they looked no different from ordinary green plants before they were pulled out, but under the soil was a root that looked like a baby. Although Professor Sprout was calm and composed throughout the whole process, the little wizards found that these mandrakes were very stubborn. They didn't want to come out when they pulled them out, and didn't want to go back in when they changed the pots. Liu Sen wanted to challenge himself, so he specially picked a pot of the best growing seedlings. However, the little guy in his hand turned out to be particularly difficult to deal with. If Liu Sen hadn't been strong enough, this guy would have definitely run away. Several times when putting the flower into the flower pot, the little guy kicked over the flower pot in his struggle. An angry Liu Sen took advantage of no one's attention and quietly communicated with Diagon and the magic wand. The next second, the golden chain quickly stretched out and tied the mandrake tightly in an instant. Taking advantage of the moment when the mandrake became well behaved, Liu Sen pushed hard and successfully completed the repotting, thanks to Diagon's apostrophe ability to switch between reality and illusion. The entire process was quick and covered point after class, except for Liu Sen. All the little wizards were exhausted by the mandrake and their bodies were stinking of fertilizer. Everyone quickly returned to the dormitory, showered and changed clothes, and then rushed to the transfiguration classroom. The content of the first class was not difficult. It mainly reviewed the knowledge of the previous year. Professor McGonagall took out some beetles and asked the little wizards to turn them into buttons. Only then did Ron take out his wand with an embarrassed look on his face. The spider silk wand that Liu Sen had customized for him last semester had broken into 2 pieces when the car fell. Originally, Ron wanted to talk about this matter during breakfast, but after being yelled at to be a religious person, he has been in a daze. You kidding? Fix it? What do you want to fix? Remember, your roommate is an expert wand maker at Hogwarts. As for magic wands, we have as many as you want. Here. There are more than 10 of them. Take your pick. Ron's decision-making difficulty was instantly activated, and he didn't know which one to choose for a moment, so Liu Sen handed one over, hopping willow branches and unicorn tail hair. It's still the same recipe, and it still feels familiar to Ron. Of course, the 2 people's little actions did not escape Professor McGonagall's eyes. Seeing this, Liu Sen quickly took out his thunder wand and sent a beautiful lightning bolt at the beetle point. After a twist, an exquisite button with the Galaxy Group logo appeared, successfully earning Professor McGonagall a pleased smile and a 10-point reward point. After class, several people walked towards the auditorium hungry. Hermione showed a handful of buttons she had conjured to several people, each of which was very exquisite and beautiful. But Ron and Harry were in a bad mood. They had almost given back all the knowledge they had learned last semester. They hadn't managed to conjure up a few buttons in the whole class. Harry's first few spells were like tickling a beetle. It was not until Liu Sen took out a handful of candies of various styles and inadvertently placed them on the Slytherin dining table that the 2 of them showed a smile of those who understand on their faces. Hermione saw the 3 people laughing strangely and was about to ask, but Harry quickly changed the subject. What classes do we have this afternoon? Defense against the dark arts, Hermione said without hesitation, and then took out the timetable to check. Huh? Ron said in surprise, grabbing her timetable. Why did you circle all of Lockhart's classes with hearts? Hermione snatched back the timetable, her face flushed instantly, and she glared at Ron fiercely. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116. Zyomar, have you forgotten something? After lunch, there is still some time before the afternoon class. Hermione took out a copy of Traveling with Vampires and started reading it attentively. Liu Sen was still wondering why the top student didn't prepare for his homework today. Then he thought, it seems that for Lockhart, his autobiography is really a textbook. Liu Sen has flipped through these books, and some of the magic and experiences in them are still very interesting. After all, they are true stories collected by Lockhart from others. After his polishing and processing, the overall reading experience is similar to that of later online novels. However, Liu Sen only watched the magic to deal with emergencies, and had no interest in the exaggerated individualism and the show-offs and sensationalism that filled the screen. Why didn't you 2 activate your invisibility in the car? I reminded you. Liu Sen asked Harry and the others. Don't mention it. I forgot about it in a hurry. I only remembered it when we were in the air, but then the invisibility function seemed to fail, Ron said with a sigh. At this time, a thin boy came over timidly. He looked to be a first-year student and was wearing Gryffindor clothes like them. Hi. My name is Colin Creevy. From Gryffindor 2. Harry. I'm so glad to call you. The child came straight towards Harry, his eyes full of passion. I was wondering, could I take a picture of you? Take a picture? Harry asked blankly. Only then did a few people notice that he was holding a muggle-style camera. He explained, so I can prove I saw you. Colin leaned forward again. I know everything about you. How did you defeat the mysterious man? How did you gain incredible power with your mother's blessing? How did you get the lightning-shaped scar? Having said this, he looked eagerly at Harry's forehead, searching with wide eyes. The child didn't notice Harry's embarrassment at all, and continued, everyone around me is talking about you. If I could take a picture of you, they would be so jealous. My roommate said that, if I use the right revealing potion, the picture would move. His eyes were full of excitement. The magical world is really great, isn't it? I didn't know that the strange things around me were magic until I received the acceptance letter. My dad is a milkman and he can't believe it. So I'm going to take a lot of photos and send them to him. He looked at Harry pleadingly. It would be even better if we could take a photo together. I wonder if your friend could help me press the shutter? And it would be perfect if you could sign it. Okay, Colin took a deep breath and looked at Harry and Liu Sen expectantly point. But at this moment, an annoying voice came from a distance. Porter, are you handing out autographed photos? It was Malfoy, and beside him were still his two bodyguard-like buddies Crabbe and Goyle. The three of them squeezed aside the thin Colin and stood in front of Harry Point. But just as he was about to continue mocking, his expression suddenly changed, and the next moment Liu Sen greeted him with a kind and gentle smile. Point seeing this, Neville and Ron immediately followed, one on the left and one on the right, and showed no weakness in the face of Malfoy and the other two. Point the corner of Malfoy's mouth twitched. He didn't hear Liu Sen's voice outside the crowd just now. After seeing Liu Sen, he felt unlucky in his heart. Point he turned around and was about to run, but Liu Sen said, Draco, don't be in such a hurry to leave. How was your vacation? Did you forget to do something? Malfoy froze, but there was a hand on his shoulder. Liu Sen put his arm around his shoulders and said without question, come on, let's go over there and talk. He glanced at Crabbe and Goyle and said, do you two want to talk alone? The two of them hurriedly shook their heads like rattles. Malfoy pretended to be calm, forced a smile on his face, and was taken aside by Liu. Senator, hey, brother Liu. Brother Liu. Do you want to talk to me about something? Liu Sen smiled without saying anything, just staring at the other person. Point Malfoy didn't know where to put his eyes, and there was some sweat on his forehead. Well, my pocket money this year is not much. It's mainly because I asked my dad to do something during the holidays, which cost a lot of money. How about giving me some time? Liu Sen patted his shoulder, scaring him so much that he closed his eyes. Don't be nervous. Am I an unreasonable person? I'm so gentle and easygoing. What's there to be afraid of? Don't you think so? But then Liu Sen changed the subject and said, why didn't you add me as your friend during the holiday? Where's the book you promised me? Malfoy just breathed a sigh of relief, but became panicked again after hearing the next sentence. My parents often check my phone, and I was afraid that our chat about magic books would be discovered, so I didn't dare to add you. Haha, really? Liu Sen nodded without comment. Then, make a list of books for me tomorrow. I'll choose 20 books. Malfoy was immediately anxious. 20 books? Didn't we agree on 10 books? The books in my house are all treasures. I would have to take a risk to steal 10 books. You promised to give me the holiday, but what happened? I feel uncomfortable if I don't read for a day, and I feel uncomfortable. Hey, how about this? You practice magic with me. I can practice one less book. What do you think? Seeing Liu Sen's harmless look, Malfoy's hair stood on end. Practicing magic with you? Do you think your life is too long? I'm not stupid. In the end, Malfoy bravely bargained and reduced the number of books to 15, and they had to be books that could not be found in Hogwarts, including the restricted area. As for whether there is a banned books area, of course Liu Sen has the final say, so as to prevent the other party from trying to be clever and fooling him with some meaningless popular goods. However, Liu Sen is not a school bully who exploits his classmates. He promises to give the other party a magic gun to play with after the book is obtained. Of course, the style and built-in magic are decided by Liu Sen. Point. When Liu Sen took the dejected Malfoy back to find his companions, he found that the crowd who had come to watch Colin's excitement had dispersed. Point. It turned out that just now, Lockhart passed by here, and after hearing everyone's conversation, he mistakenly thought that Harry was really distributing autographed photos. So he immediately stepped forward. put his arm around Harry's shoulders, and took him away. He then gave Harry another lecture, using the tone of a successful person, advising him that fame must be achieved step by step, and that only someone of his status could understand the distress of carrying around autographed photos. He reminded Harry earnestly that being a celebrity is a complicated business and Harry was too young to control himself, no matter how Harry denied it. Lockhart didn't believe it, and answered with a look that said, "These little tricks of yours are all the same ones I used to play on you." Soon, the class bell rang. It was the same classroom that Quirrell had been to last year. Hanging from the vaulted ceiling was a bone specimen of a hectic black dragon. It was placed there by Ms. Heckert, who taught defense against the dark arts more than 100 years ago. The pile of books and strange skeletons in the corner of the wall last year were gone, replaced by large and small, beautifully framed portraits and photos, all of Lockhart himself. Chapter 117. Elf. Liusen and his roommates sat in the last row. They no longer had any hope for Lockhart's class, but Hermione was very active in finding a good position. Ron said helplessly, "Her face is so ugly. I don't understand why these girls are so fascinated by Lockhart." Other subjects only had one textbook, but Lockhart was outrageous. He actually asked everyone to buy 7 copies of his autobiography, so Liusen and his friends simply stacked up the 7 books and hid their heads behind them. After all the students arrived, Lockhart stood on the podium. "Now, let me introduce to you your new defense against the dark arts teacher. That's me, Gilderoy Lockhart." He walked down the platform slowly, pointed at himself in his portrait, blinked and said, "3rd class medal of the Order of Merlin, honorary member of the Anti-Dark Magic League, and 5-time winner of the Most Charming Smile Award from Witch Weekly. But I don't talk about that. I didn't drive away the female ghost of Wadlun with a smile." Ban Lun is a city in Thailand. After saying that, he showed his signature smile. The students below were divided into 2 groups. The boys were all silent, but most of the girls were mesmerized and fascinated. It was outrageous. Next, he gave each person a test paper, saying that he wanted to test everyone's reading of his works. Liusen picked it up and took a look. His eyes widened instantly. 1. What is Gilderoy Lockhart's favorite color? 2. What was Gilderoy Lockhart's secret ambition? 3. What do you think is Gilderoy Lockhart's greatest achievement to date? 54. When is Gilderoy Lockhart's birthday? What would be his ideal birthday present? 3 whole pages. What the hell is this? Shouldn't the normal test be, list 3 ways to kill a ghost, 3 ways to deal with it, and what to do if you encounter a giant monster? This paper is full of personal preferences. The boys looked at each other in bewilderment. Only those true fans who truly admired Lockhart and had read all 7 books could answer this question. However, it was impossible to hand in a blank paper, so Liusen quietly used legilimency to probe Hermione in the front row. The nerd's mind was full of the plot in the book as he blushed, and his heart was beating fast as he answered the questions nervously. Liusen suddenly saw many interesting scenes. They are all clips of Lockhart's heroic adventures, but all the beauties in them have been replaced by Hermione. Haha. Fortunately, the nerd had a simple mind and only put himself in the perspective of a bystander, so no strange plot happened. Otherwise Liusen would have been embarrassed to continue watching. He regained control of the power of his telepathy and only paid attention to the answer written by the other party. He did not look at anything else. After simply copying a dozen or so lines, which were enough to get by, Liusen took back legilimency. "This thing is really an evil magic. Don't use it indiscriminately. What a sin. What a sin. Amitabha!" 30 minutes later, Lockhart reviewed the test papers one by one in front of the whole class. Hermione was the only one who got all the answers correct and was awarded 10 extra points. When the answer was announced, Liusen was shocked to find that this guy was actually a promising talent. I clearly stated in chapter 12 of Weekends with Werewolves that my ideal birthday gift would be all magical and non-magical people living in harmony. But I wouldn't say no to a big bottle of Ogden's Old Fire whiskey. My secret ambition is to rid the world of evil and sell my own line of hair toner. I didn't know he had such ideological awareness before. Regardless of whether he was sincere or not, it's rare for him to publicly express such a position. As for the advertisements in the book, that's a small matter unfortunately. Liusen had just formed a slightly good impression of him, but it was broken a minute later. Lockhart bent down and pulled out a large cloth-covered cage from behind the podium and placed it on the podium. My job is to teach everyone how to deal with those dangerous and disgusting monsters. He knocked on the cage, and the things inside immediately made a collision sound, and the whole cage shook. You're going to see something truly evil and terrifying soon. But don't worry, as long as I'm here, you won't be hurt. He placed his hand on the cover and whispered, "Now please don't panic. In case you anger them." The cover was lifted, revealing a group of blue elves. It's a bit like a smaller version of a house elf, but only the size of a palm, with slender hands and feet, and dragonfly-like wings on its back. They kept making sharp and shrill cries, and when they saw the students, they started jumping up and down, grinning and making all kinds of faces. Newly caught Cornish pixie. The students all looked at these little guys with disapproval, and Seamus Finnegan couldn't help but sneer. Lockhart shook his head at him in annoyance. Don't be deceived by their appearance. They are very troublesome little devils. Without giving the little wizards any hint, Lockhart opened the cage door and said, "Come on, kids, let me see how you handle it." It only took 2 seconds for all the elves to appear, flying almost as fast as the golden snitch. The whole classroom was instantly in chaos. 2 elves tried to grab Neville's ears and lift him up. If it were before, he would have been hung on the chandelier without any resistance. But through hard training, he is no longer a scum with the combat power of only 1. Neville grabbed the elves on their ears, one in each hand, and then slammed them together like a gong. The 2 elves instantly lost their fighting power and fell to the ground with stars in their eyes. The other students were not so calm. Their books were grabbed by the elves and torn into pieces together. Books and various sundries were thrown all over the place. Glass was smashed and ink was scattered everywhere. Lockhart's painting on the wall and the garbage in the trash basket on the ground were all smashed to pieces by the elf. They were so fast that in less than a minute, the whole classroom was filled with smoke and half of the students had to hide under the tables. Harrian. A few quick-witted classmates began to fight back. They picked up books as weapons and slapped the elves like they were flapping flies, but the effect is not very good. The little thing is fast and very sensitive, and it can be easily avoided most of the time. Only Hermione performed the best. She cleverly cast a freezing spell and froze 2 elves, but there were still a lot of elves running around in the room. Seeing that the situation was getting out of control, Lockhart drew his wand and said, "Petrificus totalis." He seemed to want to cast a petrification spell, but he read it slowly and haltingly, and his pronunciation was inaccurate. As a result, there was no response, and his wand was snatched away by the elf. Seeing Lockhart running away helplessly, Liusen sighed, took out his thunder wand, and waved it quickly. Fix. A chain of lightning was released from the tip of the magic wand, and the elf that was causing trouble everywhere instantly floated motionlessly in the air. Seeing that the elf closest to him was still grinning at him, Liusen gave a wicked smile, bent his index finger, and flicked the little guy's head. Liusen waved his wand again, controlled them back into the cage, and closed the cage door tightly. Lockhart, who had locked himself in the office upstairs, heard the silence outside, straightened his clothes, and walked downstairs. Say it in a matter-of-fact tone, "I knew you could do it, so I'm giving you a chance to practice." Then he smiled again, showing his shining teeth, who cast the magic in the end. After everyone turned their attention to Liusen, Lockhart readily gave Gryffindor another 10 points, without mentioning his own escape. Chapter 118. Let Snape continue to work. In the next few days, Liusen enjoyed a happy campus life. Since his wand was unsealed during the holidays and he learned the mass casting skill under the guidance of Mrs. Weasley, Liusen could get double the joy every time he cast a spell. In the evening, I continued to torment Tom in the diary. Starting from Wednesday, Liusen had slightly increased the difficulty for him. It's just a linear equation from high school. Is it that difficult? Tom, who tried to resist passively, was lectured by Liusen, mainly talking about the advanced socialist core values of the flower growers and the 8 honors and 8 shames that were decades ahead of this era. Tom was so moved that he insisted that Liusen give him 2 more questions. Diary. Why don't we talk about math problems? Well, seeing that he is so hardworking and studious, LIUSEN no longer hides his knowledge and gives him 20 junior high school math Olympiad problems as entertainment. If you like it, just say so. Not only 20 problems, but also 2000 problems. A bookcase of 3 years of college entrance examination and 5 years of simulation has not been opened yet. A large quantity is enough for you to eat. After the potion class on Wednesday, LIUSEN asked his friends to leave first, and he stayed to chat with the Royal Alchemist. Are you okay, LIUSEN? Don't tell me you've got another vampire as your lackey and need to develop a vampire potion. LIUSEN was used to Snape's sharp tongue, but considering that he was so enthusiastic, LIUSEN smiled and said, "Professor, I haven't seen you for a holiday. You still look so good. We all noticed your hairstyle during class. The Weasley magic wooden comb is pretty good, right?" Seeing Snape's face gradually darkening, LIUSEN felt very happy. Then he reached into his backpack, pulled out a photo from an album, and handed it over. "Hey, I collected this with great difficulty. I don't know if you like it." Snape's cold eyes suddenly turned hot, and he took the photo excitedly. His lips trembled slightly, and his eyes turned red as he looked at the beautiful figure in the event photos. He uttered the name that haunted him in his dreams, Lily. LIUSEN took a few steps back, turned around and was about to leave quietly, preparing to give the other party some space point, but Snape spoke slowly. "Where did you get this photo?" LIUSEN stopped, put away the smile on his face, turned around and said, "I have a special channel." Snape stared into LIUSEN's eyes and looked at him expressionlessly for a while. But LIUSEN was not panicked at all. With the help of the brain blocking technique and the immunity he developed from Snape last semester, this gaze was like a spring breeze on his face, without any oppression at all. Snape gritted his teeth and said helplessly, "Let's get straight to the point. Give me all the photos in your hand. What potion do you want? Just ask." LIUSEN smiled kindly and took out a complete photo album, which was the one he borrowed from Harry. He had made an extra copy on purpose. However, LIUSEN withdrew his hand the moment Snape was about to take it, put away his smile, and solemnly took out a test tube. "Professor, what I'm about to say is of great importance. It must be kept secret from everyone, including the principal." Snape looked at it suspiciously. The liquid in the test tube was clear and transparent, and his composition could not be seen. "But, who cares? Can you study it first and keep it as top secret? Please note, this thing is extremely dangerous, and you must never use it for experiments on humans." After saying that, LIUSEN solemnly handed the test tube and photo album to the other party. The test tube was LIUSEN's immortal mineral water. He just transformed a lot of them at that time. In addition to mineral water, there were also various beverages, beer, and erguotao. The change in Al made him realize the uncertainty of the potion. LIUSEN had to figure out what effect the potion in that safe would have under different proportions. Snape could be completely trusted in terms of reliability and potion level, so this difficult, troublesome task was handed over to him. By Friday night, Ginny was in a good mood and made an appointment with LIUSEN to have a good time at school over the weekend. So early the next morning, LIUSEN did not go for morning exercise with Neville, but waited in the common room. To his surprise, after a while, several sleepy figures came out of the dormitory yawning. These were the players called up by Oliver Wood to go to the stadium to start training for the new semester. After a while, Harry also came to the common room in a daze, followed by the Weasley twins with swollen eyes and messy hair. "Why do you two look so bad?" Fred rubbed his eyes and almost fell asleep on the sofa. "We were testing a new version of the candy for skipping classes. We didn't go to bed until 4 o'clock, and now we have to go to practice again." George was already snoring beside him, and the others were almost the same. Not long after, Ginny came down in a sports suit. The two left the castle together, walked on the dewy grass, breathed the fresh air, and felt very happy. LIUSEN took her jogging for a while, and then did a set of boxing. Ginny had learned the basic bodybuilding boxing techniques at the Burrow, and now she was able to do it quite well. I met Neville on the way and he had completed his morning exercise today. So the three of them returned to the auditorium together. After breakfast, Liu Sen took Ginny out again. The two of them walked around the castle, and after seeing the Quidditch field from afar, Ginny immediately became interested, because Quidditch was her favorite sport. They met Ron and Hermione in the stands, who had come to see Harry. "How is their training going?" Liu Sen asked. After sitting down, Ron sighed and shrugged helplessly. "They've only just started. They were discussing tactics in the locker room before the players on the field began tactical training under the command of Oliver Wood." Harry and the twins competed in speed, but his Nimbus 2000 didn't have much of an advantage, because during the holidays, Liu Sen and his friends completely refurbished the two old sweepers. They replaced many modified parts, and the speed and stability became excellent. From time to time, there was a crackling sound from the top of the stands, which was particularly eye-catching in the empty Quidditch field. They turned around and saw that it was Harry's little mysterious brother, Colin Creevy. Even Ginny couldn't help but shake her head helplessly. Colin was in the same class with her, and he liked to discuss Harry after class, which was really annoying. He held the camera and kept pressing the shutter to capture the wonderful moments of his idol. Oliver Wood thought it was a Slytherin spy, but he soon stopped thinking so, because a team of wizards in green clothes walked into the stadium. They were the Slytherin Quidditch team. "The situation is not good." After saying that, Liu Sen stood up and ran down from the stands with a few people. The atmosphere between the two teams was tense. Oliver Wood tried his best to control his temper and asked the other team to leave, because the venue in the morning belonged to the Gryffindor team. They applied to the professor first. But Marcus Flint, captain of the Slytherin team, showed no sign of weakness. He proudly took out a note and handed it over. Wood took it and read, "I, Professor Severus Snape, allow the Slytherin team to practice on the Quidditch pitch today to train their new seeker." "You found a new seeker?" Wood asked doubtfully. "Who?" The 6 tall members of the Slytherin team stood on both sides, making way for a pale-skinned guy behind them, who turned out to be Malfoy with a smug look on his face. Chapter 119, Dirty Chapter of the Wizarding World. Seeing that Slytherin's new seeker was Malfoy, several members of the Gryffindor team frowned instantly. Especially the Weasley twins. Their fathers even fought during the holidays. At this time, Liu Sen and his companions had already walked up to them, and the conversation between the two teams was clearly heard by them. Fred said with disgust, "It's you, Lucius' son." Malfoy raised his eyebrows. "What? Are you surprised?" He deliberately held the flying broom in front of him, and the Slytherin team members also proudly showed off the uniform new brooms in their hands. Ginny glanced at Liu Sen and was even more surprised when he nodded in confirmation, because the brooms of several people were the same as hers. "Nimbus 2001. How did you get it?" Wood asked in disbelief. "We have to thank Mr. Lucius for his generosity. He donated 7 Nimbus 2001s to us. The latest model, just released last month." Malfoy glanced proudly at the Weasley twins sweeping 7 stars and was about to sneer when he was interrupted by another voice. "TSK. TSK Master Mars family is really rich. But you have money to buy a broom. Why don't you have money to settle the debt?" Malfoy turned around and became nervous when he saw Liu Sen. But with the support of his teammates and his recent display of power, Malfoy regained his courage and said, "What do I owe you? We can talk about our business later. As for you saying my family is rich, Master Liu, your family is not bad either. Why don't you buy a batch of new brooms for your Gryffindor family?" Liu Sen was so angry that he laughed. This kid is getting cocky again. He still dares to default on his debt. Fine. Hermione stepped forward and said, "We don't need it, because Gryffindor skills are real. No one spends money to get into the team." Malfoy's expression changed instantly, and he said viciously, "You are not qualified to talk to me, you stinky mudblood." This sentence instantly ignited the anger of the little lions, and their teammates had to try hard to hold the twins back, because they were about to rush up and beat people up at the first moment. Even more angry was Ron, who pulled out the Humping Willow wand from his robe and shouted, "You're going to pay for that, Malfoy. Eat slugs." Bang! A green light flashed, and Malfoy flew backwards. His teammates hurriedly helped the sponsor up, but before Malfoy could say anything, his face changed, then he felt nauseous, as if something was wriggling in his throat. Vomit. He spat out a slimy slug. Ha 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 ha. This is what you deserve, Malfoy. Ron shouted happily. He avenged Hermione. Malfoy sat on the ground and said incoherently, I want high speed, Baba. Ugh. The Slytherins were immediately furious and drew their wands to fight back. But Liu Sen was faster than them. Expelliarmus. A bolt of lightning struck Flint and instantly scattered out from behind him. The lightning spread out in a web-like pattern, and several Slytherins were hit. Their wands flew out of their hands and flew far away. At the same time, Flint and several others fell to the ground, twitching under the effect of the electric shock. However, Liu Sen controlled the strength, and the electricity only made them look a little embarrassed, and they also got a perm on their hair. So after a few seconds, several Slytherin players with afros stood up tremblingly. Flint looked at Liu Sen and everyone else angrily. Just as he was about to say something harsh, he opened his mouth and spat out a puff of black smoke. Amid the laughter of the Gryffindor players, several guys with afro hair picked up their wands and ran away without looking back. Ron and Liu Sen were instantly surrounded by the crowd and were treated like heroes. But just as several people were cheering, a discordant sound came from behind them. Ugh. It was poor Malfoy. He was spitting slugs alone, forgotten in the corner by his companions. Liu Sen smiled and squatted beside him. Master Ma, where are your companions? Aren't they too disloyal? Oh, that's right. The friendship bought with money. It's reasonable for them to go their separate ways. When the new year comes, Malfoy, who was already feeling sick and uncomfortable, turned around and found himself trapped in the enemy camp. His friends had taken all the new brooms he had given them and abandoned him. Instantly, tears of grievance and grief welled up in his eyes. Before he could say anything, he felt nauseous again, and poof. Another wriggling slug was spat out by him. Malfoy couldn't hold it in any longer and started crying with tears and snot streaming down his face, looking very sad. He had never suffered such suffering since he was a child, and yet he was hit again and again by Liu Sen and his friends. The most important thing is that when I was feeling bad, I didn't have any friends around me. George laughed and said, you deserve it. This is the retribution you deserve. Ron also crossed his arms and said, I told you to pay for what you said. How about it? Slugs taste good, right? Malfoy squatted on the ground, sobbing and spitting out a slug every few seconds, and his already pale face turned a little greener, thinking that this guy's nature was not beyond redemption. Liu Sen finally helped him up. Little pony, if you realize your mistake, apologize to Hermione right away. I'll give you a chance, because we went on an adventure in the Forbidden Forest together last year. Malfoy was supported by Liu Sen and turned his head with 3 staggers. When he looked at Hermione, he just opened his mouth and another slug came out. Hermione shook her head. Let's leave it at that for now. Don't let him vomit. Ron, remove the curse. Ron looked confused. Why did you untie it? He dared to say that word to you. However, under Hermione's gaze, he still gave in, and then he scratched his head. But I don't know how to remove the curse. Everyone looked at each other and realized that no one knew how to deal with this little evil curse. Go to Hagrid and let him figure it out. Harry's suggestion was unanimously agreed to, and a moment later Malfoy was sitting in Hagrid's living room. Hagrid found a large wooden barrel and stuffed it into Malfoy's mouth unhappily, asking him to take it. There's no other way. Just vomit it out slowly. It's better than eating it. He tilted his head and asked Liu Sen and the others in a low voice. When he learned that Malfoy had brought it upon himself, he immediately smiled. Harry didn't yet understand what mudblood meant, but he knew it wasn't a nice word. After Ron and Hermione's explanation, he realized that this was a vicious and vulgar word used to humiliate wizards from pure muggle families, meaning dirty and inferior blood. Ron sneered. That's all crazy. Most wizards these days are half-blood. If we didn't intermarry with muggles, we would have been extinct long ago. Although Hagrid is tall and strong, he has a delicate and gentle heart. He said softly to Hermione, we all know that birth means nothing. Look, some pure blood wizards don't even have a real friend. Everyone smiled and looked at Malfoy, who was spitting slugs alone. Hagrid continued, look at our Hermione. You have so many friends standing up for you, and you are smart and studious. How many little wizards can surpass you? I dare say that they have not invented the spells that our Hermione can't use. Hermione blushed immediately, and the bad mood of being humiliated was swept away. Chapter 120 Malfoy spits out gold coins. Hagrid turned to Ron and said, I don't blame you for using the spell to deal with him, but Ron, his father Lucius will definitely not let it go. It might be a bit troublesome. Ron was a little scared at first, but when he saw Hermione, he made up his mind. At worst, he would receive another howler. It was worth it to be able to protect Hermione. Hagrid brought hot tea and a plate of rock cakes. Liu Sen subconsciously took out his wand and prepared to start cutting. Seeing several people dodging, as if they were facing a great enemy, he could only smile awkwardly. After taking the plate to Malfoy, he took out his thunder wand and touched the hard rock cake at close range with minimal force. Malfoy, who was dazed from vomiting, was still wondering why Liu Sen used his wand to poke the pastries on the plate. As a result, the next second, the rock cakes on the plate were cut into potato chips by an invisible sharp blade in a weak electric current. Malfoy panicked instantly, but then his eyes lit up. Liu Sen's magic level was so high, maybe there was a way to get him out of the misery. After vomiting a few times, Malfoy weakly asked Liu Sen for help. Liu, brother Liu, help me. You can do it. Liu Sen rolled his eyes and pretended to sigh. What's the point of removing the magic? Go back and tell your dad. Your dad will cause trouble for Ron's dad. His dad will deal with him, and he will come back to give you a blow. You continue to vomit. Why don't you vomit for a while longer so that Ron won't feel resentful when he gets beaten up? What if he gives you a harder blow next time? What do you want to vomit next time? Beverly caterpillars or blood-sucking leeches? Malfoy's face turned even greener, and he vomited several times, almost passing out. Brother Liu, I don't want to vomit anymore. Think of a way, please. Liu Sen looked embarrassed and clapped his hands. How about this? We are all classmates. I will give you a best of both worlds idea. Seeing that everyone was looking over, he pointed at Malfoy and said, You have a problem with your thinking, and you said the wrong thing. He pointed at Ron again. What about you? You used too much force to help your classmate vent his anger. How about this, Ron? You pay Malfoy some money, and then the grudge between you two will be written off. Both sides showed expressions of disbelief, especially Ron and his companions, who looked over in disbelief. But when they saw Liu Sen showing them the familiar kind smile, they immediately realized that Malfoy was probably going to be in trouble. Several people held back their laughter, pretending to be embarrassed, waiting for what was to come. In order to show respect for each other, money must be given. How about this? If you agree to this plan, starting from the time you nod, for every slug you spit out, Ron will give you 1 gold galleon. Ron's eyes widened immediately. Although his family was rich now, this was not the way to spend money. Harry hurriedly stopped him, and Hermione covered his mouth with her hand. Malfoy sneered. 1 gold galleon? Who are you looking down on? Do you think I'm short of money? You want to buy my dignity with money? Impossible. I, Malfoy, will never surrender, even if I vomit to death. I will never accept your rotten money. Vomit. Oh, 2 gold galleons. Oh, you haven't agreed yet, so these 2 don't count. Ron. Liu Sen. This plan is too terrible, right? Can we change it? Malfoy wiped the mucus from the corner of his mouth. I will never give in. Tell me when I come back after vomiting. Ugh. After a while, another dozen slugs were spit out. Ron was already feeling lucky that Malfoy did not agree to the compensation plan. Otherwise it would be another large amount of gold galleons. Malfoy was struggling internally. If he continued to vomit like this, he would be throwing away dozens or even hundreds of gold galleons in vain. And instead of having Ron receive another howler letter or something, having him pay a large sum of money seems not bad. No. Do I need money? I must let him see the anger of the Malfoy family. Ugh. I agree. I won't tell my family. I'll ask him to compensate me, and then we'll write it off. Smirk flashed across Liusen's eyes. Are you sure? You won't regret it, Ron said anxiously. No way. Where can I get so much pocket money? Malfoy said proudly. I will never regret it. Ugh. After vomiting, Malfoy laughed miserably and said, 1.1 gold galleon. Ron took 2 steps back weakly and sat back on the sofa. Although he knew that Liusen would not let him down, he still counted silently in his heart with fear 789,102,030. 40. But the one who felt even worse than Ron was Malfoy. The rich young man who had been living a life of luxury since childhood never expected that making money would be so difficult, so disgusting. Every bite is torture. Liu-Sen, brother Liu. Is there any way to stop me from vomiting? I can't stand it anymore. Malfoy said weakly after vomiting. Liu-Sen, who was chatting with Ginny after eating the rock cake, turned his head and said seriously, no. You are a noble. You must keep your word. Hang in there, spit and spit. You will get used to it when. He vomited 50 times. Malfoy pleaded again. Brother, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. I don't want to vomit now. I feel like my stomach is going to vomit. Ugh. Liu-Sen acted embarrassed. I'm only responsible for mediating the conflict. If it weren't for Hermione's tolerance and generosity, I wouldn't bother with you. If you want to apologize, don't tell me. Malfoy avoided her gaze and didn't want to apologize to Hermione, but after another wave of nausea hit him, he hurriedly shouted, I'm sorry Hermione. I shouldn't have said that to you. Ugh. Seeing that Hermione was completely relieved, Liu-Sen took out his wand, activated the illumination spell, and turned on the healing light mode. This move not only has a good healing effect, but also has the property of dispelling black magic. After covering Malfoy with the soft mist-like healing light, there was an immediate reaction. Huh? What's going on? Malfoy's stomach suddenly swelled up, and then he covered his mouth in horror, as if a wave of slugs was about to erupt. Seeing that it was counterproductive, Liu-Sen quickly changed his spell. All spells are over. This is the advanced magic that Liu-Sen learned from Nicholas Flamel. It is the pro maximum version of the curse stop. It can even forcibly stop the fiery curse, except for the requirement of mana reserve. It is almost perfect. Does Liu-Sen lack mana? He has more mana than he has money. There was a flash of lightning, and Malfoy suddenly felt his stomach lighten, and the bloating feeling quickly disappeared. He was about to speak when his brows furrowed, and then he vomited again, and vomited a mini slug the size of a pencil tip. Haha. Sorry, this is my first time using such advanced magic. Allow me to practice. As he spoke, Liu-Sen communicated with Diagon to switch the magic wand to the learning machine mode. He chanted the spell towards the wall again. This time, no magic was emitted. Instead, with the help of the sealing chain Diagon, he could feel the clear casting process. The lines and rune models of the magic power also became slow and detailed. Half a minute later, I know it. After casting all curses again, Malfoy was finally relieved, and no more slugs appeared in his stomach. After surviving the disaster, Malfoy wanted to leave immediately with a complicated expression, but he found that his steps were weak, and he had no strength in his whole body. So Liu-Sen pulled him over, and gave him a portion of rock cake crisps and hot tea. After eating something, and finally calming down, Malfoy asked, how much did I vomit later? Is there a count? Liu-Sen took out a bag, handed it to Ron and said, I'll fill it for you first. Here are 60 gold coins. Ron's eyes widened immediately, and he was about to say something, but it felt so light. He handed the bag over suspiciously, and as soon as Malfoy touched the opening of the bag, Liu-Sen quickly snatched it away. You finally have money. So, you still owe me 40 gold coins. Hurry up and make up the difference, or I'll deduct interest. Oh, and the book list. I helped you settle the conflict, and earned 60 gold coins for you. Is it okay to lend you 10 more books? Malfoy withdrew his hand from the air, and the corners of his mouth twitched. I vomited slugs for a long time, but didn't get a single gold coin. I still owe 40, and I have to pay for more books. My books are rare collections. They are all unique copies that can't be found on the market. And %##. Am I being ripped off again? Chapter 121 Let Hermione be an assistant. Malfoy finally stopped vomiting, but he was so weak that he couldn't walk back to the castle without someone to support him. But everyone had a lot to talk to Hagrid about, and no one was willing to go and see him off. So everyone left Malfoy aside and started chatting among themselves. Hagrid suddenly seemed to remember something and said, "I haven't settled accounts with you yet. I heard that Harry is giving out autographed photos. Why hasn't anyone sent me one?" Everyone couldn't help laughing, realizing that Hagrid was joking. Harry explained helplessly, "Who told you that? How could I possibly post a photo like that?" Hagrid patted Harry on the back affectionately, causing him to fall backwards. "Of course I know you didn't. Lockhart came here earlier and told me that. Of course I didn't believe it. I told him that Harry wasn't that kind of kid. He didn't need to put in any effort to be more famous than some people." Liu Sen smiled and said, "I'm afraid he won't be too happy if you say that. By the way, why did he come to see you?" Hagrid took a sip of his tea, looking for a reason. "He wanted to teach me how to keep water monsters from getting into the well. As if I didn't know that. He even boasted to me about how he could exorcise female ghosts and all that. Well, if any of what he said is true, I'll eat the teapot." Liu Sen knew that Hagrid was not such a person. He never commented on Hogwarts professors unless that person was not worthy of respect and really made him angry. Like Filch. Hagrid's words made Hermione frown. "I think it's a bit unfair for you to say that. Professor Lockhart was chosen by Dumbledore. He is the most suitable candidate for defense against the dark arts." Hagrid served them a plate of homemade fudge and said, "Not the best candidate, but the only candidate. I mean, it's hard to find a defense against the dark arts teacher these days. People don't want to do it. They think it's unlucky and no one can do it for a long time." Liu Sen nodded. It was true. Because no matter it was Professor Quirrell last year, Lockhart this year, or Lupin, Mad-Eye Moody and others in the future, no one could stay in this position for 2 consecutive years. Legend has it that when Voldemort was young, he wanted to teach this course, but was rejected by Dumbledore, so he placed a severe curse on this subject. From then on, any teacher who taught the defense against the dark arts class would encounter unexpected events. Liu Sen picked up a piece of fudge made by Hagrid, put it in his mouth and chewed it. He found that, although it was sweet and mellow, it was very sticky. He didn't like this kind of dessert very much. Ginny, on the other hand, was enjoying the food. Liu Sen had teased Ginny many times about the toothache caused by eating too much sugar, but she just gave her a look and Ginny glared back knowingly. Then, when no one was paying attention, she twisted Liu Sen's waist. Hagrid seemed to notice their little action. He winked at Liu Sen and then said to Ginny, "Another Weasley. I hope you won't be as naughty as your brothers. I mean the Weasley twins." He said with great interest, "I don't know what good things the twins did a few days ago. Peeves controlled a big net to chase them all over the castle. They were really smart. When they were about to be caught, they hid behind a cabinet and shouted, 'Liu Sen is here.' Peeves was scared to death." Everyone looked at Liu Sen with a smile, and Hagrid was laughing so hard that he fell backwards. When Peeves realized what was happening, he was so angry that he covered both the man and the cabinet with a net, but he didn't catch the man and broke the cabinet. Haha. When Hagrid was happy, he smiled and slapped Liu Sen's back with his big hand, making a bang bang sound. Before we knew it, it was lunchtime and Hagrid warmly invited everyone to have lunch at his place. When Harry and the others saw Hagrid finishing a half-eaten pheasant, they suddenly lost their appetite. Liu Sen happily helped him. He planned to go to the vegetable garden to dig some potatoes and make a pot of chicken and potato stew for everyone. Hagrid took this opportunity to show everyone his achievements. Everyone came to the backyard vegetable garden and found that in addition to the common vegetables, there were also many super huge pumpkins. Hagrid proudly told everyone that these were for Halloween and would be made into giant pumpkin lanterns. After viewing them, they could be sent to the kitchen as ingredients. Ron asked in surprise, "Hagrid, what kind of fertilizer did you use? The crops in the greenhouse don't grow as well as dragon dung." Hagrid looked around, mainly at Malfoy in the distance, then blinked and whispered back, "Hey, I gave them a little, how should I put it? A little help. Liu Sen found that Hagrid's little pink umbrella was sticking out from his robe. He knew that it was not an umbrella, but Hagrid's magic wand point in principle. Hagrid was not allowed to use magic. When he was in the 3rd grade, he was wrongly accused and took the blame, so he was expelled from school and his wand was broken. Liu Sen had wanted to make him a wand for a long time, but Hagrid was afraid of implicating him and had never agreed. If he was discovered by the Ministry of Magic, he would be convicted. Hermione stared at the pumpkin and found some clues. She said excitedly, "I guess it's the expansion spell. The effect is really good." Liu Sen picked some fresh vegetables and found some ingredients in the kitchen and made a few side dishes for everyone. In addition to stewed chicken with potatoes, I also made scrambled eggs with tomatoes and 3 fresh vegetables. I also found a pumpkin that was underweight and made a dish of roasted pumpkin with butter. At first Malfoy was reluctant to say that he was not hungry, but after smelling the fragrance, everyone heard the sound of him swallowing. Liu Sen saw his arrogant character and pulled him over. Malfoy sat at the table reluctantly, and he ate the most among the little wizards present. After Malfoy had eaten and drunk his fill and regained his strength, he returned to the castle alone. When he left, he had a complicated expression on his face and no longer had the arrogance he had had before. Because of their conflict in the morning, Ginny did not experience the feeling of speeding on the field, so they returned to the Quidditch field. It is lunchtime for the little wizards and the court is empty. Harry went to the broom shed and got out the We Are Lightwinds brooms and his own Nimbus 2000. Then he and Ron played happily with Ginny on the Quidditch field, while Liu Sen and Hermione stayed in the stands. Hermione took out a book called Wandering with Werewolves and started reading it, but when she thought about Lockhart's performance in class and what she had seen in the past few days, she couldn't help but waver and her interest in reading was greatly reduced. She turned around and saw Liu Sen concentrating on writing and drawing in a notebook. There were words and some simple diagrams on the book. It didn't look like the guns or props that Liu Sen usually studied, but more like a kind of card. Liu Sen felt the other person's gaze and said without raising his head, "I'm designing a wizard card, but I need to arrange a lot of characters in the setting." His eyes lit up as he spread out the notebook to Hermione and introduced it to her. "The cards I want to design require the organization and adaptation of many historical figures. If you are free, can you help me research them? If this game is released, I will give you a commission. Just like the props that the We Are Lightwinds helped me make. What do you think?" Hermione's parents are both dentists, which is a high-income profession in the UK, so her family is quite well off. In terms of living conditions, they are even more comfortable than most wizard families, but in the wizarding world, Hermione is alone. Her parents do have some savings, but it is impossible for her to exchange all of her parents' savings into gold galleons in order to increase her own wealth. So, if there was an opportunity to make money, Hermione would certainly not refuse it. So Liu Sen explained in detail the rules of the card game and what she needed to do. "So, this involves a lot of wizards from history, and also some of the wizards who are still alive. Yes. Such as Dumbledore, Mad-Eye Moody, etc. You need to write down their famous achievements, introductions, catchphrases, etc. You also need to adapt some resounding skills according to each person's characteristics. Then you need to evaluate their combat effectiveness, health points, attributes, etc." Hermione listened very carefully, took out a notebook, and took careful notes, and soon she had some clues. Liu Sen thought happily, "Why didn't I think of Hermione before? She is very good at flipping through books and sorting out information." In this way, the magic version of Gwent is just around the corner. Chapter 122 Diary. I'm familiar with this. After Liu Sen finished assigning the tasks, Hermione became the one who did the writing and drawing, so Boss Liu was happy to have some free time and started watching Ginny play. It was not until a team walked onto the field for training that Ginny and the other two flew down from the air. They recognized each other as the Hufflepuff team, as their old acquaintance Cedric was among them. After chatting with Cedric for a few words, Liu Sen and others left the Quidditch field together. As they were entering the castle chatting and laughing, Professor McGonagall suddenly stopped Harry and Ron and told them that their detention would begin in the evening. Ron asked nervously, "Professor, what are we going to do? Go help Mr. Filch clean the metals in the trophy room?" Professor McGonagall emphasized, "No magic allowed. You have to wipe them with your hands the whole time." Ron gasped. There were thousands of medals and trophies in the trophy display room. Who knows how long it would take to clean them with his hands, and Filch was in charge of that place, and he was hated by all the students. If it was Liu Sen who went there, maybe Filch would help him clean it, but if it was someone else, it would be hard to say. Maybe he'll follow you the whole time with his cat in his arms, nitpicking and taunting you in a scary tone. Harry swallowed hard. Ron's punishment was bad enough. He didn't know what he would face. Professor McGonagall turned around and said, "Potter, go help Professor Lockhart write back to his admirers." Harry pleaded with a bitter face, "Professor, I don't want to write any reply to Lockhart. Can I also clean the trophy display room?" "I'm afraid not. Professor Lockhart specifically requested you, Professor." McGonagall shook her head. "Well, you two will start promptly at 8 o'clock this evening." Liu Sen patted his two dejected roommates and consoled them. "Don't worry, it will eventually pass. Isn't it just a matter of wiping and writing? It's very simple." Ginny was laughing on the side. When she saw them looking over, she said, "As a matter of course, who told you to drive the car away without permission? You also crashed the Humping Willow and almost lost your life." When Liu Sen returned to the common room, he saw Neville reading a book on a sofa, but it was obvious that his mind was not on the book. Instead, he frowned, and no one knew what he was thinking about. Liu Sen raised his hand and waved it in front of his eyes. Neville suddenly woke up, as if from a dream, and dropped the book on the ground in fright. After seeing that it was Liu Sen, he breathed a sigh of relief and quickly lowered his head to pick up his beloved 1,000 magical herbs and ferns and patted the dust off it. "You scared me. You are finally back." Liu Sen asked curiously, "What's wrong? Why don't you go back to the dormitory? If you are bored, why don't you come and play with us?" "Neville, I went to the greenhouse to help Professor Sprout in the morning. Then I didn't wait for you, so I went back to the dormitory." But at this point, Neville looked at Liu Sen with a frightened expression. "I think there are unclean things in the dormitory." Liu Sen chuckled. "Are you talking about ghosts? There are ghosts everywhere in our school. I've even chopped them off before. What's there to be afraid of?" Neville shook his head and said seriously, "I was taking a nap when I heard someone calling my name. I thought you were back or playing a joke on me." "The voice came from inside your door." Liu Sen frowned when he heard this. He seemed to have a bad premonition. "Sure enough," Neville said the next sentence, "I walked in and found that the sound came from a diary in the cabinet." According to Neville's description, the voice seemed full of temptation, bewitching him to open his notebook. If Neville hadn't built up a strong will through nearly a year of morning exercises, running and boxing every day, he might have really been fooled by the diary. Liu Sen felt a little scared when he thought about it. During this period, he would write a few math problems in his diary every night, or talk to it about ideological education issues. The helpless look on his face as he looked at the diary every day made him subconsciously ignore the horror of the diary. Thinking this way, it seems that suppressing the diary all the time is not a long-term solution. If you want to reform its thinking, it seems that you have to proceed step by step. How about talking to him about the dark arts? But I only know a little about the dark arts. Just when Liu Sen was thinking about countermeasures, his mobile phone sent a message reminder. When he opened it, he saw that it was Malfoy, who was newly added at noon. After clicking on the message, Liu Sen was surprised to find that it was the book list he had been waiting for a long time. There were over 30 names of magic books written in it, some of which were obviously not serious books, while others had no idea what they were about. How could he choose? "Hey, I just happen to have a master of black magic here. Isn't this a coincidence?" Opening the diary, Liu Sen picked up the pen and wrote, "Tang." Crossed out, "The King of Heaven and the Tiger of Earth." The diary was silent for a few seconds. "Did you almost write it wrong just now? Did you forget the secret code?" Hahaha, the pagoda suppresses a river monster. By the way, I have solved the problem you left for me yesterday. It's a little difficult, but it's not difficult for me. Liusen. Haha, those are just random questions. We won't ask any questions today. I wonder if I can ask you something else. Diary. Okay, we are good friends who can talk about anything. Just ask whatever you want to ask. Liusen thought, what good friends. Whoever believes you'll be in trouble. After complaining in his heart, Liusen continued to write, I want to consult you about something special, but I don't know who to ask. The diary quickly wrote, please feel free to ask me anything. I had very good grades when I was in school. Or if you have any questions about making friends, you can also consult me. Liusen. Well, I felt that the content in the textbooks was too conservative, so I quietly went to the banned books section. I wonder if you know anything about that place. The diary was ecstatic. I'm familiar with this thing. It quickly replied, I think the books in the forbidden area can also be read, because knowledge is not divided into good and bad. I wonder what you want to know? I just read some books in the forbidden area. Do you need me to recommend a few? Liusen wrote the names of the books on the list half truthfully in his diary and asked Tom to identify them. It turned out that Tom knew them all by heart. There were indeed some good things in the list of books provided by Malfoy, but there were also some very ordinary books mixed in, which Tom considered to be rubbish and there was no need to read them. Liusen explained that some books Tom had never seen might have been put there in recent decades, and he successfully got away with it. Even if it is a book Tom has never read. Once the author's name is mentioned, he can compare it to some great figures in history and guess whether it is worth reading. Liusen successfully selected the list of books and also stabilized the diary. He was in a good mood immediately. He did not give the diary any homework, but promised to exchange his thoughts with him after reading several black magic books recommended by him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123. 3 views on reshaping the diary. It was past 10 o'clock in the evening when Harry and Ron, who had been in detention, returned to the dormitory exhausted. Ron said he was about to vomit from wiping the medals and trophies in the trophy display room, and Harry said with envy that he would rather clean them than go back to Professor Lockhart. He spent 4 hours writing a reply letter that night. Now he is more proficient in signing Lockhart's name than his own. Hearing this, Liusen's eyes lit up. Should he let Harry sign a note for the restricted area? He had practiced his signature to perfection, so there was no need to waste it. So Liusen quickly took out a pen and paper and asked Harry to imitate Lockhart's handwriting and write a special note. Liusen is hereby approved to enter the restricted area to consult information. Professor Gilderoy Lockhart. Looking at the note with flying dragons and little hearts on it, Liusen smiled with satisfaction. If this thing wasn't from Lockhart himself, there was no way to tell its authenticity. Harry was a little worried. Liusen, this is not good, right? What if the professor finds out? Haha. Don't worry, I'll go now, Harry. Going there in the middle of the night. What kind of approval do you need? Liusen did what he said. He slapped the invisibility talisman on himself and sneaked into the library. After arriving at the forbidden book area, Liusen spent some time finding the must-read in the forbidden book area books recommended by the diary. After looking through it, he found that there were indeed some things, such as curses, blood sacrifices, selling souls and so on. On the surface, it seems that one can quickly improve one's strength, but if one is exposed to these things without any foundation, Liusen can be completely sure that the diary has no good intentions. In the next few days, Liusen received books sent by Malfoy one after another, which allowed him to be exposed to more forbidden knowledge that ordinary people could not see. Liusen mainly used it for reference and learning, which felt like looking for lotus roots in the mud and grabbing inspiration from the chaos. He did not get too caught up in it. On the one hand, he used black magic as a topic, to bring the diary closer to him, and on the other hand, he instilled a new worldview into the diary in both overt and covert ways. LIUSEN. This imperious curse is great, Tom. It's much better than love potions. But I'd prefer to win a person's heart with wisdom and personal charm. Otherwise, it's all in vain, and you'll be betrayed sooner or later. Diary. Ah, yes, this was just rubbing salt into Tom's wounds. Tom's mother, Merope, is a pure-blooded wizard. Her full name is Merope Marva Logorn Slytherin. She has the blood of Salazar Slytherin, but she fell in love with a muggle, Tom Riddlepoint. She used a love potion to seduce Tom, and eloped with him. After she became pregnant, she stopped using the love potion, and confessed her identity as a witch out of love for Tom. As a result, she was soon ruthlessly abandoned by Tom. Merope was so disheartened that her magic power declined, and she became homeless, and had to live on the streets with no other options left. Merope sold her priceless ancestral locket, but only got a mere 10 gold galleons. In the end, she died after giving birth to a child in the orphanage. Little Tom's childhood was dark. LIUSEN. Tom, what are you thinking about? Let's continue talking. The Cruciatus curse requires a perverted mind. The more vicious the imagined punishment is, the higher the damage, right? What if we change the direction? Can we improve it to convey other emotions? For example, give people a sense of happiness, a sense of satisfaction, a sense of fullness, etc. Do you know? Fear can only bring temporary submission, but happiness can make people actively pass it on. It is like in the old days, when landlords fenced off land and whipped slaves to make them work. They could indeed gain free labor, but they would inevitably become passive and lazy, and rebellion was only a matter of time. But it's different in a more advanced way, and what the Muggle ruling class is doing now is very interesting. They use beautiful houses, luxury cars, and luxurious materials as bait. If you have no money, but want to enjoy, they will provide usury to the lower class Muggles. With loans, they can tie the lower class firmly. The people below are now working very hard, and then they will take the initiative to hand over the money they earn to the rulers. You see, this is called professionalism. Tom, do you know? In another decade or so, low-level Muggles will even take the initiative to work 10. They are really top-notch cattle and horses. Some self-righteous dark wizards even want to kill them, and then wave the whip and personally command them. Isn't this a hole in their brains? Diary, work on your own initiative. 996. Damn, Germany and France, or Muggles are so cruel. LIUSEN, the universe is so vast. Some fools think that ruling a small country by violence is the pinnacle of life. Tom, do you think they are just looking at the world from a narrow perspective? Diary, well, yes. LIUSEN, Muggles' nuclear weapons can destroy a city in an instant. Do wizards have such things? Missiles can easily destroy targets thousands of kilometers away, and can even leave the entire Earth barren. Wizards are far from having such destructive power. The end result of a war with Muggles is that no one will survive. So I think wizards should learn technology well, and use magic to make the world more convenient and advanced in the future. Let Muggles work willingly. Finally, the Earth will enter interstellar civilization. The person who leads mankind out of the magic and technological civilization will surely become a figure that goes down in history. He will be praised forever by the world. This is the pinnacle of life. LIUSEN would fill the diary with conversations like these every day, and how much the other person could understand depended on his or her comprehension. However, if the diary makes any more small moves, LIUSEN doesn't mind letting him experience the warmth of the thunder flame lightning sword. Ever since Neville heard the call from the diary, LIUSEN had pasted a talisman to suppress evil on the diary. And the evil thoughts inside were sealed tightly. Not a single bit would leak out. On the other hand, the campus forum has been slightly upgraded to allow for the import of larger and clearer images. This has made the forum even more popular. It just so happens that Colin, Harry's mysterious little brother who hangs around him every day, loves taking pictures all day long. LIUSEN simply asked Harry to assign him tasks, which would not only add material to the forum, but also reduce the frequency of him bothering Harry. Moreover, Colin's family is average, and the commission from photography can help him work and study. Which is a good thing for Colin. It is really killing two birds with one stone. It was the weekend again, and LIUSEN brought the little girl to the Forbidden Forest. He wanted to give her a surprise. LIUSEN first entered the Forbidden Forest alone and soon brought the unicorn out. Ginny's eyes sparkled and she exclaimed excitedly, "Which girl wouldn't like such a beautiful and elegant magical animal as a unicorn? This is Shiro, the unicorn that lives in the Forbidden Forest. Xiaobei, this is the Ginny I told you about. Xiaobei." Where puff Ginny, LIUSEN, ahem. Xiaobei, stop talking nonsense. What do you, a single unicorn? No, Ginny. With LIUSEN's help, Ginny rode on the back of a unicorn and experienced the treatment of a princess in a fairy tale. During the process, LIUSEN took a lot of beautiful photos of her, which he could share in the group. When he got back, the Hogwarts research team has solved the problem of sending pictures via mobile phones. It is still in the testing stage, but it has been used on a small scale. During his communication with the diary, LIUSEN learned a lot of interesting knowledge, and recently he is preparing to upgrade the magic artificial intelligence Xiaoli. Chapter 124 Book Gourmet. With the addition of Miss Zuba, LIUSEN's research team quickly gave birth to a new card game, Gwent. This is a type of playing card that LIUSEN of later generations particularly liked. It's not difficult to play, and the main thing is that you can have fun collecting cards. Hermione used her spare time to look up a lot of information and included many legendary figures, historical figures and famous modern wizards, as well as magical creatures and camps with the characteristics of this world. The Weasley twins and Cedric are responsible for the technology, while the design of the core gameplay and sales planning are handed over to LIUSEN. Gwent was promoted by bundling it with the Quibbler. The basic cards were randomly given away in magazines. After buying a few magazines, you can start a card game with the cards you get. Friends can exchange cards and win cards from each other. It is very interesting and collectible. If you want more new cards, you have to keep buying the Quibbler. At the same time, the magazine also has columns introducing how to play the cards and new cards, so that the repurchase rate continues to grow. For those who are not short of money, a deluxe edition card subscription service is also available, which is more luxurious and has a wider range of products than the regular edition of the magazine. In terms of price, it is equivalent to directly subscribing to the Quibbler for 5 years. Isn't this more conscientious than a certain team? Clearly marked prices, no deception. On the other side, LIUSEN took the magic server back from Ginny. He learned some magic from the diary and could directly extract the contents of an entire book and copy it in. This will undoubtedly greatly enhance Xiaoli's learning progress and provide technical support for accelerating the construction of the Internet of Things. Little Fox has been trained by Ginny for more than half a year. Now he has the IQ of at least 6 years old and can have simple conversations with people. Xiaoli is different from the moving characters in the photos. She was created from nothing and learned and grew step by step. Both the potential and the ability to process information have unlimited potential. Moreover, she was specially created to access the magic internet and is naturally compatible with the Galaxy Group's communication products. LIUSEN placed Xiaoli on the table, chanted a spell, and extracted the contents of a book called A History of Hogwarts. A huge amount of text floated out of the book like thousands of flying insects, and under the guidance of the magic wand, gathered towards Xiaoli. After a moment, the text completely entered Xiaoli's body. How does it feel? LIUSEN asked puzzledly. Xiaoli said in a voice as soft and cute as Ginny's, "It's good. I learned a lot of knowledge all of a sudden. But I feel a little tired. I can't explain it. It seems that my mind can't turn around, and I feel empty." LIUSEN pondered for a moment, then asked uncertainly, "You didn't mean hungry, did you, Xiaoli?" "Huh? Really? So this is what it feels like to be hungry?" LIUSEN picked up Xiaoli and subconsciously looked around the charging port. He scratched his head, thinking that Xiaoli must have learned too many things at once and was unable to handle them, resulting in insufficient magic power. After thinking for a while, LIUSEN injected a stream of magic power into Xiaoli. Soon, the magic power enveloped Xiaoli and was then absorbed by the transparent gem embedded in it. "Yeah, I feel it. If you keep feeding me this, it should fill my stomach, but it tastes just average." "Huh? You're still picky about food. How can magic be any different? As soon as he finished speaking, Liu Sen suddenly thought that magic power could really be different, so he tentatively mobilized a trace of red magic absorbed from the Philosopher's Stone. According to Nicholas Flamel, this magic power comes from the Philosopher's Stone communicating with another dimension. It is a magical yet dangerous energy. When a trace of red magic was sent to Diagon Alley, the little guy suddenly became alert and said aloud, "This red one smells so good. Give it to me now." Seeing that Diagon Alley was very eager, Liu Sen felt relieved and injected a bit of magic power into it. A magical scene happened. After the red magic power entered the transparent gem, it was not digested and absorbed by the little fox, but flowed inside the gem like water mist. The little fox immediately made a sound of enjoyment, as if it had eaten a delicious snack. Seeing that Diagon Alley was safe and sound and looked unsatisfied, Liu Sen mobilized more red magic power and slowly injected it into him. Diagon Alley's eating speed is amazing. Liu Sen later changed it to the speed of pouring food, but the other party was still able to eat it all. If the magic power Liu Sen called upon this time is used to turn stone into gold, it is estimated that it can convert 5 portions of gold obtained by the Weasley family. But the little fox had just been fed. He looked at the well-fed little raccoon with concern, and was shocked to find that the originally transparent gem on the badge had turned red. Just like a small magic stone. Hiss. Could it be that this gem is a replica of the Philosopher's Stone? Otherwise, how could it be exactly the same as the Philosopher's Stone? And how could it be so compatible with red magic? If you look closely, you can see that there are some differences between the two. The Philosopher's Stone feels like a ruby, bright red and transparent, with an even and fine glow inside, and it is solid. As for the little fox, although it also turned bright red after absorbing enough red magic, if you look closely, you will find that the red inside is like mist, flowing slowly, and is in gaseous form. Zao. Lee, how do you feel? Liu Sen asked worriedly, afraid that the other party would be hurt by him. Very good. Haha. It's delicious. I feel full of energy. My mind is much clearer. Give me another book. Diagon Alley said happily at a much faster pace than usual, and his tone was no longer the previous stereotype of artificial idiocy, but full of agility, just like Ginny sitting opposite him. Liu Sen looked around the dormitory and saw the book Thousand Magical Herbs and Ferns on Neville's desk. He waved his wand to extract the contents. This magic does not harm the book itself. Otherwise Neville would be heartbroken. This time the book has more text and pictures, but the little fox is chewing like a snack. Crunch, crunch, gulp, This is delicious. I learned it. God damn, it's delicious. This is knowledge, and it's actually described as eating. What does the mandrake do? Diagon Alley answered fluently in an instant, and mastered the knowledge completely. Liu Sen said nothing, trembling with envy. After a wicked laugh, Liu Sen entered the door, and took out a history of magic, extract and inject. Ugh. What is this? It's disgusting. It tastes like candles. Have you ever eaten candles? Why do you say that? Liu Sen asked, trying not to laugh. Humph. Bad Liu Sen. You must have done this on purpose. I'm going to complain. Let my sister Ginny take care of you. Liu Sen suddenly felt a headache, forgetting that these two guys had a special relationship. He quickly picked up a copy of The Origins of Quidditch from Harry's desk, extracted some content, and fed it to the little fox. But delicious, delicious. From then on, Liu Sen had a book gourmet by his side. By feeding her different books every day, he could get different eating sound effects, which was quite interesting. Chapter 125, Smartphones in the Room of Requirement. After the upgrade, Diagon Alley's knowledge reserves soared rapidly under Liu Sen's continuous feeding, and he became adept at processing information. After Liu Sen told his friends the good news, they evaluated Diagon Alley's abilities in all aspects, and found that her intelligence had exceeded that of humans, and she was able to think about many extremely complex problems at the same time. So everyone agreed that it was time to move on to the second phase of testing. connecting her to the campus forum point after adding a communication module for Diagon Alley and enabling management permissions. All the information in the forum could be read by her instantly point within 10 seconds. She discovered the little wizard who was secretly driving in a hidden message conversation in the forum. Then she was banned, warned, and publicly criticized. The twins cheered instantly. They no longer had to review forum information. Moreover, Diagon Alley can automatically reply to the little wizards who leave messages asking for advertising information, accurately introduce product information, analyze personal preferences based on their historical visit records, and recommend more suitable products. Liu Sen was dumbfounded. This is a magical version of big data artificial intelligence. Awesome. Diagon Alley. What surprised Liu Sen was that the red magic power he output that day had clearly exhausted the stock of one acupoint, but when he looked at it the next day, it had automatically recovered. This can't be used up. It can't be used up at all. What is more convenient is that Diagon Alley does not need to be next to the magic forum board. All calculations and management are done remotely, so Liu Sen can carry it with him. Since Diagon Alley had been fed hundreds of books, including Liu Sen's textbooks, Liu Sen accidentally got a cheat device. Whether it's a question from the teacher or an essay assignment that requires research, Diagon Alley will silently display the answer in just a moment. It's so cool. When Hermione found out about this, she was so angry that she almost reported it to the teacher. Finally, Liu Sen had to solemnly declare to Diagon Alley in front of Hermione that he was not allowed to show the answers in class in the future, let alone help solve problems or do homework. But afterwards, Liu Sen made a cheap deal with Diagon Alley. When Hermione was nearby, the answers would all be displayed in Chinese. For every paper he helped write, Liu Sen would give him a delicious snacker book that Diagon Alley was interested in. With the in-depth exploration of Diagon Alley's computing power, the research team found that Diagon Alley's current capabilities are fully capable of carrying out more and broader tasks, so they worked with Lupin to produce a multifunctional tablet with networking function. This prototype was almost blank, but with Diagon Alley's Link, Muggle Wars, Plants vs. Zombies and all the functions of the mobile phone were instantly written into it. Moreover, with Diagon Alley as the background processor, as long as Liu Sen tells the idea of the new level of Plants vs. Zombies, Diagon Alley can immediately add and realize it. Muggle Wars has a new human machine mode, and the mobile phone interface has become more exquisite. In short, with the Diagon Alley Super Terminal, many epoch-making things have become possible. In this case, the current magic phone needs to be redesigned, at least with a color screen, a camera, and an app. The online payment function must also be considered. Liu Sen consulted Lupin, Mr. Weasley and many professors about some technical problems, but still lacked some key technical support. During the period of time when they were stuck in technical difficulties, the 4-member team of staff felt extremely uncomfortable. They pondered all day long and worked day and night to search for information and find a breakthrough. If you keep thinking about something, it will surely come true. One day, when Liu Sen was thinking and wandering around the school, he suddenly found himself in a place he had never been to before. The tapestry on the wall instantly caught his attention. A wizard was surrounded by a group of trolls in ballet costumes. The wizard seemed to be teaching the trolls how to dance ballet, but he was hit on the head by the clumsy trolls. Trolls hit stupid Barnabas with a stick. The Room of Requirement. This legendary magical room is located on the 8th floor. Just pass by the wall opposite the tapestry 3 times and think about the room you want in your mind. Then a door will appear on the wall and the room inside will exactly meet your requirements. Liu Sen smiled. Isn't this the inspiration? He immediately repeated the room he wanted in his mind 3 times, and after that, a door really appeared on the wall. Pushing the door open, you'll see a huge, vast space filled with mountains of junk. Liu Sen didn't want an inspirational room, but wanted a place to hide things in his heart. This is exactly where he is going. There are several interesting things piled here. Over the centuries, countless young wizards or professors have wanted to hide things, and a vast amount of items in the Room of Requirement was accumulated bit by bit. There were a lot of old items, books, sundries and all kinds of things inside. Liusen quickly found one of them among the garbage. This is a huge mirror with ancient patterns and animal foot styled temples. Hey. Magic mirror. Long time no see. This is Liusen's good partner, Eris working magic mirror. The magic mirror was ecstatic when it felt someone approaching. It had been left here for some time and was extremely bored because there was no wizard to full point. But when Liusen approached, it was stunned again. That shameless freeloader had come to its door. At this moment, it recalled the joy of being poor. No, it was fear. Why? Don't you have any reaction at all? Move yourself. Hurry up, mirror. Please be a human being. Although the mirror thought so in its heart, it immediately acted honestly. The image in the mirror distorted, and all the sundries in Kyubiing's room turned into mountains of gold, reflecting Liusen's face with golden light. Mirror, your thinking is too outdated. Do I need to imagine a golden mountain? I already have it. Let me show you. This is what real golden light looks like. Your rendering of the picture is unprofessional. Under Liusen's control, a picture was transmitted to the mirror, and the other party fell silent in an instant. You are not lying to me, are you? Are you bullying me because I'm a mirror? Whose house is full of gold bricks? Liusen interacted with the mirror for a while. I'll take you out to play later. I have a scientific research project that requires your cooperation. I'll find something first, and I'll be back soon. After saying that, Liusen began to search in the sea of debris again. After a while, he found a quaint cabinet among a pile of tables, chairs, and benches. The dust on it was not too thick, as if it had just been moved in not long ago. This cabinet was originally a pair. I don't know who made it. The magic inside is very interesting and worth studying. If you put something in a cabinet, it will be automatically transferred to another cabinet soon. In the original book, the Death Eater sneaked into the heavily guarded Hogwarts through it. It is the Vanishing Cabinet. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.